I always knew my family saw me as a bank account with legs, but I never thought they'd actually rob me blind. My name is Maya, and I've been the responsible one for as long as I can remember. While my younger sister Sasha was getting her nails done and posting Instagram stories, I was working 60-hour weeks in international finance, sending money home, and making sure everyone else's life stayed picture perfect. The call came on a Tuesday morning in Singapore, where I'd been stationed for the past 8 months. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my laptop chimed with an incoming video call from home. Mom's face filled the screen, practically glowing with excitement. "Maya! Oh, honey, we have the most wonderful news." I leaned back in my chair, already sensing trouble. Mom only used that sing-song voice when she wanted something or had done something she knew I wouldn't like. "What's going on?" "Well, you know how Sasha's been planning her wedding to Xander. The wedding that's costing more than most people's houses?" I interrupted. Mom's smile faltered for half a second. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, Maya. Anyway, we found the perfect solution for the funding issue." My stomach dropped. "What kind of solution?" Dad's face appeared beside Mom's, wearing that jovial expression he always put on when he was about to deliver bad news, like it was a gift. "We sold your apartment." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You what?" "The downtown condo," Mom chirped. "We got an excellent price for it. More than enough to cover Sasha's wedding expenses and then some." I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. "That's my apartment. My name is on the deed." "Well, technically yes, but we've been managing it while you're away," Dad said, his tone suggesting this was perfectly reasonable. "And since you're not using it—" "I'm not using it because I'm working overseas to pay for everyone else's lifestyle." Sasha's face suddenly filled the frame, pushing our parents aside. She was radiant, practically bouncing with excitement. "Maya, isn't it perfect? Now I can have the wedding of my dreams at the Grandview Estate. 300 guests, live orchestra, imported flowers. Everything I've always wanted. Using money from selling my home," Sasha waved dismissively. "You can always buy another apartment when you get back. Besides, you're never even there. At least this way the money's going to something meaningful." "Meaningful." I repeated the word slowly, tasting its bitterness. "The wedding is in 6 weeks, Mom added. "We've already put down deposits on everything. The venue, the caterer, Sasha's dress. It's going to be absolutely magical." I looked at their faces on the screen, Mom beaming with pride, Dad nodding along like he'd just announced a promotion, and Sasha glowing with self-satisfaction. Not one of them showed even a flicker of guilt or concern for what they'd done to me. "How exactly did you manage to sell property that's in my name?" Dad cleared his throat. "Well, we may have handled some of the paperwork ourselves. You know how these things work. Family helping family. You forged my signature." "That's such an ugly way to put it," Mom said, her voice taking on that wounded tone she used whenever anyone called out her behavior. "We're family. We look out for each other. By committing fraud." Sasha rolled her eyes. "God, Maya, you're being so dramatic. It's not like you can't afford another place. You make tons of money. Money I've been sending home to keep this family afloat. And we're grateful," Dad said quickly. "This is just a one-time thing. For Sasha's special day." I stared at them. These people who shared my DNA but felt like strangers. The apartment wasn't just property to me. It was my sanctuary. My proof that I'd made something of myself. My escape from the suffocating dynamics of this family. And they'd sold it like it was a used car. "Maya?" Mom's voice was cautious now. "Say something. Aren't you happy for your sister?" I forced my expression into neutral territory, years of corporate negotiations teaching me to hide my emotions. "Congratulations, Sasha. I'm sure it'll be a beautiful wedding." Sasha clapped her hands together. "I knew you'd understand. You're the best big sister ever." "I have to go," I said, my finger hovering over the disconnect button. "Work calls." "Of course, honey," Mom said, We love you. I ended the call and sat in the silence of my Singapore office, staring at my reflection in the black screen. They thought they'd played me perfectly. The dutiful daughter who'd swallow this betrayal with a smile and maybe even send a wedding gift. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact I hadn't called in months. Kinley answered on the second ring. Maya, what's wrong? I need a favor, I said, my voice steady as steel. And it's going to get messy. I'm listening. My family just made the biggest mistake of their lives, and I'm about to show them exactly what the responsible daughter is capable of. I smiled for the first time since the call ended. Congratulations, Sasha, but you might want to check your own mail soon. Start from the beginning, Kinley said, her voice sharp with focus. What exactly did they do? I paced my hotel room, phone pressed to my ear. They sold my downtown condo, forged my signature on the documents, used the money for Sasha's wedding. Jesus, Maya. That's straight up fraud. Gets better. They've been managing the property while I'm overseas, so they had access to everything. Keys, documents, the works. How much are we talking about? The condo's worth about $400,000. They probably got close to that. Maybe more in this market. Kinley whistled low. Okay, first things first. Do you have copies of the original deed and mortgage documents? Everything's in my secure cloud storage. I learned a long time ago not to trust my family with important paperwork. Smart. What else do they have access to? I stopped pacing. This was the part I'd been dreading to admit out loud. Nothing. At least, nothing they know about. Meaning? Remember when I set up that holding company 3 years ago? Meridian Holdings? The one you used for your investment properties? Yeah. What about it? I transferred ownership of the condo to Meridian 6 months after I bought it. My parents think they sold property I owned directly, but legally, they just committed fraud against a corporation. Maya, you beautiful paranoid genius. So the sale is completely invalid? Completely. But there's more. I sat down on the bed, suddenly feeling the weight of what I was about to reveal. Kinley, who do you think has been paying my parents' mortgage for the past 4 years? Silence stretched across the line. Then, no. Tell me you didn't. Meridian Holdings has been making their mortgage payments. Anonymous benefactor, they think. Some distant relative who wanted to help but stay private. How much? $2,800 a month. Plus, I've been covering their credit card debt, car payments, and half of Sasha's college loans. All through shell accounts they can't trace back to me. Holy shit, Maya. You've been bankrolling their entire lifestyle? While living in a studio apartment in Singapore and eating ramen for dinner most nights? Yeah. And they just sold your home to fund a wedding. A $400,000 wedding. Kinley was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had that dangerous edge I remembered from law school. What do you want me to do? First, file an injunction to void the sale. Fraud invalidates the entire transaction. Done. What else? Contact Meridian's bank. Stop all payments to my parents effective immediately. Mortgage, credit cards, everything. Maya, that'll trigger foreclosure proceedings within 60 days. I know. They'll lose their house. They should have thought of that before they stole mine. Okay. Anything else? I pulled up my laptop and started typing. I'm sending you documentation of every payment Meridian has made on their behalf. Bank records, transaction histories, everything. I want you to prepare a comprehensive report. For what? I'm going to gift it to them, right around the time their wedding bills start bouncing. You're really going nuclear on this. They declared war when they forged my signature. I'm just finishing what they started. My phone buzzed with an email notification. I glanced at the sender and felt a cold smile spread across my face. Kinley, I have to go. I just got an email from someone named Destiny. She's apparently Sasha's wedding planner. What's it say? I opened the message and scanned it quickly. She's having payment processing issues with the deposits. Wants to speak with someone from the family urgently. The checks are already bouncing? Looks like it. My parents probably wrote checks against the sale proceeds before the money actually cleared. Amateur hour. You can't spend money from a fraudulent transaction. They're about to learn that the hard way. I closed my laptop and headed for the window, looking out at the Singapore skyline. How long will the injunction take? I can file it tomorrow morning. With the fraud evidence, we should have a temporary restraining order within 48 hours. Perfect. That gives them just enough time to dig themselves deeper. Maya, are you sure about this? Once we start this process, there's no going back. Your family will know exactly who's been supporting them all these years. I thought about Sasha's smug face on the video call, the way she dismissed my feelings like I was being unreasonable for caring about my own home being stolen. Good. I want them to know. I want them to understand exactly what they threw away. All right. I'll start drafting the paperwork tonight. Thank you, Kinley. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. This is what friends do. Besides, I've been waiting years for you to finally stand up to them. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my hotel room, staring at Destiny's increasingly frantic emails. 3 more had come in while I was talking to Kinley, each one more desperate than the last. I opened my laptop and began typing a response to the wedding planner. Not to help, to watch the dominoes fall. Dear Destiny, I wrote, I understand you're having payment issues with the Gill wedding. Unfortunately, I'm currently overseas and unable to assist with financial matters. You may want to contact the family directly about alternative funding sources. Best of luck with the event. I hit send and immediately opened a new browser window. Time to do some research on wedding cancellation policies and vendor contracts. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Destiny. This one marked urgent. I deleted it without reading it. Let the games begin. The next morning brought chaos, and I had a front row seat to watch it unfold. My phone started buzzing at 6 a.m. Singapore time with notifications from the family group chat I'd muted months ago. I unmuted it just to watch the show. Sasha. OMG, the florist is being so difficult about payment timing. Mom. Don't worry, sweetheart. Dad's handling it. Sasha. But what if they cancel our order? The peonies are perfect. Dad. Everything's fine. Just some banking delays. I screenshot the conversation and sent it to Kinley with a message. It's starting. My laptop chimed with a video call from Kinley. I answered, and her face appeared on screen, coffee mug in hand. The injunction's filed, she said without preamble. Judge Morrison is reviewing it this afternoon. How long until they freeze the funds? If he signs off, the bank will get the order by end of business today. All money from that sale gets locked down pending investigation. Perfect timing. Sasha's dress fitting is tomorrow. You're enjoying this way too much. Am I? Let me read you the latest email from Destiny the wedding planner. I pulled up my inbox and found her message from 20 minutes ago. Dear Maya, I'm reaching out because I'm unable to contact your parents, and several vendors are threatening to cancel services due to payment issues. The catering deposit bounced, the venue is demanding immediate payment, and the band wants cash up front. Please call me urgently. Ouch. Wait, there's more. She sent another one 5 minutes later. Maya, I'm starting to panic. Your sister keeps telling me everything's fine, but I have 17 vendors asking for money and your parents aren't returning calls. My reputation is on the line here. Kinley shook her head. That poor woman. She's about to learn an expensive lesson about due diligence. My phone rang. Dad's contact photo filled the screen. Him grinning at last year's Christmas dinner, arm around Sasha. Speak of the devil. You're not answering? God, no, but I'll put it on speaker so you can hear the voicemail. The call went to voicemail, and Dad's voice filled my hotel room, strained and trying too hard to sound casual. Hey Maya, it's Dad. Just wanted to chat about some minor banking hiccups we're having. Nothing serious, Just some timing issues with the apartment sale. Give me a call when you get a chance, okay? Love you. Minor banking hiccups, Kinley repeated. That's one way to put it. He has no idea what's coming. My laptop pinged with another email. This one wasn't from Destiny. It was from someone named Jet at the Grandview Estate. Dear Ms. Gill, we've attempted to process the venue deposit multiple times, but all payments have been declined. Per our contract, we require full payment within 48 hours, or we'll need to release your date to other clients. Please contact us immediately. The venue's pulling out? Looks like it. And if I know Sasha, she's probably posted about this wedding all over social media. The embarrassment alone will kill her. Maya, your parents are calling me now. Don't answer. Let them sweat. Too late. I already declined it. But they left a voicemail. Play it. Kinley put her phone on speaker. Mom's voice came through, high-pitched and panicked. Kinley, this is Ava, Maya's mother. I know you and Maya are close, and we're having some confusion with our bank. Could you please ask Maya to call us? It's about the apartment sale, and there seems to be some kind of legal issue. We really need to talk to her. Legal issue, I repeated. That's cute. They're starting to figure it out. My phone buzzed with a text from Sasha. Maya, why aren't you answering Dad? This is my wedding. I showed Kinley the screen. She's still making it all about her. Of course she is. She's probably telling Xander that I'm being dramatic and difficult. Speaking of Xander, has he figured out what's happening? Not yet, but he will. His family has money. Old money. They know how to spot financial fraud. Another email popped up, this one from a vendor I didn't recognize. The subject line read, Gill Wedding, payment required. Maya, I'm looking at the bank records you sent me. Your parents have been living way beyond their means for years. Without your anonymous payments, they're completely screwed. Good. Their mortgage payment is due in 12 days. I know. Maya. What? They're going to lose everything. I stared at my reflection in the laptop screen, seeing a stranger looking back at me. Someone harder than I used to be. They stole my home, Kinley. They committed fraud. They've been bleeding me dry for years while treating me like an ATM. And when I needed them to respect the one thing that was truly mine, they sold it without a second thought. I know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just making sure you understand the consequences. I understand perfectly. My phone rang again. This time it was Sasha. Answer it, Kinley said. Let's hear what she has to say. I declined the call and waited for the voicemail. Sasha's voice was shrill with panic. Maya, what the hell is going on? Destiny is freaking out. The venue is threatening to cancel, and Mom and Dad are acting weird. You need to fix this right now. My wedding is in 5 weeks, and I am not letting you ruin it with whatever drama you're creating. Call me back. Whatever drama you're creating, Kinley repeated. Unbelievable. She still thinks this is my fault somehow. What's your next move? I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. I'm preparing a little care package for my family. Bank records, payment histories, legal documents, everything they need to understand exactly how deep they're buried. When are you sending it? Tomorrow, right after Sasha's dress fitting gets canceled. My phone lit up with another call from Dad. Then Mom. Then Sasha again. I turned off the ringer and smiled. Let them panic. They're about to learn that actions have consequences. And Maya? Yeah? Remind me never to get on your bad side. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Too late for them to learn that lesson. The injunction hit at 3:47 p.m. their time. I know because Kinley called me the moment the bank froze the accounts. It's done, she said. Every penny from that apartment sale is locked down pending fraud investigation. How long until they find out? Probably when they try to make their next payment. Could be hours, could be... My phone exploded with notifications. The family group chat was going insane. Dad. What the hell is happening with our accounts? Mom. The bank says there's a legal hold on our money. Sasha. What does that mean? Dad. I'm calling Maya right now. I screenshot the chaos and sent it to Kinley. Found out sooner than expected. Dad's call came through immediately. I let it ring out, then played the voicemail on speaker. Maya, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you need to call me back right now. The bank froze our accounts and they're talking about fraud investigations. This isn't funny anymore. Game? Kinley raised an eyebrow. He thinks this is a game? Wait, there's more. Mom's voicemail came next, her voice shaking. Maya, sweetheart, please call us. There's been some terrible mistake with the bank. They're saying the apartment sale was illegal, but that's impossible. We're family. Please, honey, we need your help. Then Sasha's voice, pure venom. Maya, I swear to God, if you're behind this, I will never forgive you. My wedding is ruined. Destiny just called crying because nothing is paid for. Fix this now. Still making it all about her, Kinley observed. She has no idea how much worse it's about to get. I opened my laptop and pulled up the care package I'd been preparing. Bank statements, payment records, mortgage documents, everything showing exactly how much money I'd been funneling to my family for years. I'm sending it now. The whole package? Every last document. I want them to understand exactly what they've lost. I attached the files to an email and typed a simple message. Since you're having banking issues, I thought you might want to review your financial history. Pay special attention to the payments from Meridian Holdings. That's the company that's been covering your mortgage for the past 4 years. The same company that actually owned the apartment you just tried to steal. Consider this my resignation as your anonymous benefactor. Best of luck with the wedding. Maya. I hit send and immediately called Kinley back. It's done. They should get it any minute now. Maya, you just nuked them from orbit. They nuked themselves when they forged my signature. My phone started ringing again. Dad, then Mom, then Sasha. I declined every call and watched the voicemails pile up. Play the latest one, Kinley said. I put Dad's newest message on speaker. His voice was different now. Panicked. Desperate. Maya, we got your email. We need to talk. Please. I know you're angry, but we can work this out. We're family. You can't just... Please call me back. He's starting to understand. Wait. Here's Mom's. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Maya, I don't understand. You've been... All this time you were... Oh God, what have we done? Please, sweetheart. Please call us. We can fix this. Then Sasha's, screaming, You psychotic bitch! You've been controlling our lives this whole time? Playing puppet master while pretending to be the victim? I hate you. My wedding is destroyed because of your sick revenge fantasy. And there's the real Sasha, I said. She's still not getting it. My laptop chimed with an email from Destiny. The subject line read, Urgent. Gil wedding cancellation. The wedding planner's bailing. I opened the message and read it aloud. Dear Gil family, due to non-payment and the current legal issues surrounding your accounts, I am forced to cancel all services for the Sasha Gil wedding. All vendors have been notified. I will be pursuing legal action for damages to my business reputation. Do not contact me again. Ouch. It gets better. Look at this. I pulled up Sasha's Instagram. Her latest post from this morning showed her at the bridal salon, beaming in her wedding dress with the caption, Final fitting before the big day. Can't wait to marry my prince. Blessed bride, Sanv dream wedding. The comments section was brutal. Didn't your wedding just get canceled? Girl, the tea is spilling on Facebook about your family. Is it true your parents committed fraud? Your wedding planner is dragging you on her business page. Yikes, this is embarrassing. She's being roasted alive, Kinley said. Public humiliation was always her worst fear. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. "Answer it," Kinley said. "Might be interesting." "Hello? Is this Maya?" "This is Xander. Sasha's, well, I guess her ex-fiancé now." I put him on speaker and gestured to Kinley. "Hi, Xander. I'm sorry to hear about the engagement. Are you? Because from what I'm hearing, you orchestrated this whole thing." "I didn't orchestrate anything. I just stopped enabling fraud." "Look, I need to understand what happened. Sasha's telling me you sabotaged her wedding out of jealousy, but the legal documents suggest something else entirely." "What do the documents suggest?" "That your parents stole your property and committed bank fraud. Multiple felonies, actually." "That's accurate." "And you've been financially supporting them for years without them knowing?" "Also accurate." Xander was quiet for a moment. "Jesus Christ. Sasha has no idea, does she? She really thinks you're the villain here." "Sasha thinks whatever makes her feel better about herself. I can't marry into this family, Maya. This level of deception, the fraud, the way they treated you, I can't be part of it." "That's probably wise. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. What they did to you was unforgivable." "Thank you." After he hung up, Kinley whistled low. Even the groom figured it out. "Xander's not stupid. His family has old money. They know how to spot grifters. So Sasha lost her wedding, her fiancé, and her family's about to lose their house. Don't forget her social media reputation." "Maya, your phone's lighting up again." I looked at the screen. 17 missed calls, 23 unread voicemails, and 46 text messages. They're in full panic mode. "Are you going to answer eventually?" "Maybe. When I'm ready to hear them beg." I turned my phone face down and smiled. Let them sit with what they've done for a while. They've had years to treat me like family instead of a bank account. Now they get to learn what life looks like without me. "Maya?" "Yeah?" "Remind me to never cross you." I laughed, and for the first time in days, it felt genuine. Too late for them to learn that lesson. By morning, the situation had exploded beyond anything I'd anticipated. Kinley called me at 7 a.m., her voice tight with urgency. "Maya, you need to see what's happening online. Sasha's having a complete meltdown on social media." I grabbed my laptop and pulled up Instagram. Sasha's account was a disaster zone. She'd posted a 20-slide story rant at 3 a.m., and it was still going. "My psycho sister has destroyed my life," I read aloud. "She's been secretly controlling our family's finances for years, like some kind of puppet master. She stole my wedding money and got my fiancé to break up with me. She's a manipulative, jealous bitch who can't stand seeing me happy." "It gets worse," Kinley said. "Keep reading. Maya has been pretending to be poor while secretly being rich and making us beg for money. She's sick and twisted, and I hope she rots in hell. She ruined my perfect wedding because she's a sad, lonely workaholic who will die alone." The comments are brutal. I scrolled down. Hundreds of responses, and most of them weren't supporting Sasha. "Girl, your sister was paying your bills and you sold her house? That's messed up. Wait, so she was helping your family and you're mad at her for stopping? Make it make sense. This sounds like your family committed fraud and got caught. The audacity to call someone manipulative when you literally stole their property." She's getting destroyed in the comments. "It's not just Instagram," Kinley said. "Someone screenshot her rant and posted it on Reddit. It's gone viral. The post has 15,000 upvotes and 3,000 comments. What's the general consensus? That your family are entitled fraudsters who got what they deserved." My phone started ringing. Mom's contact photo appeared. "Answer it," Kinley said. "I want to hear this." I put it on speaker. "Maya, thank God. We need to talk." "Do we?" "Please, sweetheart. Come home. We can work this out as a family." "The same family that sold my home behind my back?" "We made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can fix it." "How exactly do you plan to fix fraud, Mom?" "Don't call it that. We're family. We were just borrowing against your asset. By forging my signature. Maya, please. Your father's having chest pains from the stress. Sasha's been crying for 2 days straight. We need you. Where was this concern when you were spending my money? We didn't know it was your money. You never told us about the holding company or the payments. We thought we had a guardian angel. You did, and you betrayed her. Maya. I hung up and immediately got a text from Sasha. Answer your phone, you selfish bitch. Mom's having a panic attack, and Dad might be having a heart attack. This is your fault. Classy as always, Kinley observed. Wait, there's more. Another text from Sasha. Xander's family is telling everyone we're criminals. His mom called me a gold digger and said I'm lucky they don't press charges. I can't show my face anywhere because of what you did. She's still making herself the victim. Of course she is. Look at this email. I opened a message from someone named Amara at First National Bank. Ms. Maya, I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly. I'm the loan officer who's been handling your parents' account. I wanted to give you a heads up that they've been in here 3 times this week, trying to get emergency loans using your apartment as collateral. When we told them the property was tied up in legal proceedings, your father became aggressive. Security had to escort him out yesterday. Dad got kicked out of the bank. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but they also tried to take out a loan against their car and were denied due to their debt-to-income ratio. Without the anonymous payments they were receiving, they're completely insolvent. I thought you should know in case they try to contact you for financial assistance. They're desperate, completely broke, and now everyone knows it. My laptop chimed with a video call from an unknown number. I almost declined it, then recognized the background. It was Destiny, the wedding planner. I have to take this, I answered, and Destiny's face appeared on screen. She looked exhausted, her usually perfect makeup smudged. Maya, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you something. Go ahead. Did your family really forge your signature to sell your apartment? Yes. And you've been secretly paying their bills for years? Yes. Destiny closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I'm ruined. Completely ruined. 17 vendors are suing me for breach of contract because I guaranteed payment for services I can't deliver. My business insurance won't cover fraud-related losses. I'm sorry that happened to you. Your sister keeps calling me, screaming that this is all your fault and demanding I fix it somehow. She wants me to eat the costs and provide services for free to make up for the confusion. That sounds like Sasha. Maya, I have to ask, is there any way you could help? Not for your family, but for me? I'm going to lose everything because I trusted them. I looked at Kinley, who shook her head slightly. Destiny, I understand you're in a difficult position, but my family committed fraud. I can't enable that by covering their debts. I know, I had to ask. Have you considered suing them for damages? With what money? They're broke, and my lawyer says you can't get blood from a stone. After she hung up, Kinley leaned back in her chair. That poor woman. She's collateral damage, but she chose to work with my family without doing proper due diligence. Maya, your phone's ringing again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize with a local area code. Hello? Is this Maya? This is Detective Rodriguez, with the Fraud Division. We've received a complaint about forged documents related to a property sale. We'd like to speak with you when you return to the country. I put him on speaker. What kind of complaint? Your parents filed a report claiming you're harassing them financially and that the apartment sale was legitimate. But the bank's investigation suggests otherwise. The sale was fraudulent. I have documentation proving it. We'd like to review that documentation. When will you be back in town? Next week. Perfect. We'll be in touch. After he hung up, Kinley whistled. They actually called the police on you? They're trying to flip the narrative, make me the criminal. That's not going to work. The evidence is too clear. My phone buzzed with another text from Sasha. The police are involved now because of your psycho revenge plot. You've destroyed our entire family. I hope you're happy. I showed Kinley the message. She still doesn't get it. She never will. In her mind, she's always the victim. Maya, are you ready for what comes next? This is about to get very public and very ugly. I looked out at the Singapore skyline, thinking about the family I'd once loved, the sister I'd once protected, the parents I'd once respected. Let it get ugly. They made their choice when they decided to steal from me. And if they end up in jail, then they'll have plenty of time to think about what they did. My phone rang again. This time I didn't even look at who was calling. They can keep calling. I'm done being their safety net. Maya? Yeah? For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Thanks. But right or wrong, there's no going back now. The phone kept ringing. I turned it off completely. Some bridges are meant to burn. The ambush came at 2 a.m. Singapore time. My hotel phone rang, jolting me awake. The caller ID showed an international number I didn't recognize. Hello? Maya, thank God. Dad's voice was hoarse, desperate. We've been trying to reach you for days. I know. We need to talk. All of us. As a family. Put me on speaker. I heard shuffling, then Mom's voice, thick with tears. Maya, sweetheart, please come home. We can work this out. Can we? Because last I checked, you committed fraud. Don't say that word, Dad snapped. We're family. Families don't commit fraud against each other. Families don't steal each other's homes either. Sasha's voice cut through, shrill and furious. You ruined my life. My wedding is destroyed. Xander won't even look at me, and everyone thinks we're criminals. You are criminals. We needed the money, Maya. You have so much, and you never share it with us. I've been sharing it with you for 4 years. $2,800 a month for your mortgage, plus credit cards, car payments, and your college loans. That was you? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Meridian Holdings. My company. I've been keeping you afloat while you treated me like an ATM. Why didn't you tell us? Dad asked. Because I knew you'd take it for granted. Just like you took everything else. Maya, please, Mom begged. We're going to lose the house. The bank is starting foreclosure proceedings. Good. How can you say that? Sasha screamed. This is our family home. The family home you were willing to sacrifice my apartment for. That's different. How is it different, Sasha? Because you don't even live there. You're always traveling for work. So that gave you the right to steal it? We weren't stealing. We were using family resources for a family celebration. By forging my signature. Maya, Dad's voice was pleading now. We made a mistake, a big mistake. But we can fix this. You can stop the foreclosure. Help us pay back the vendors. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. I'm not fixing this. I'm not paying for Sasha's wedding. I'm not saving your house. I'm done. You can't be serious, Mom said. I've never been more serious in my life. Maya, please. Sasha's voice cracked. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry we sold your apartment. But you can buy another one. You can't replace my wedding day. Watch me not care. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in years, I'm being completely honest with all of you. What's that supposed to mean? Dad asked. It means I'm tired of pretending we're a loving family when you only love what I can do for you. I'm tired of being the responsible one while you treat me like a bank. I'm tired of watching you spoil Sasha while taking everything I give you for granted. That's not true, Mom protested. Isn't it? When's the last time any of you called me just to see how I was doing? When's the last time you asked about my life, my work, my happiness? Silence. When's the last time you thanked me for anything? For the money? For the support? For always being there when you needed me? More silence. You can't answer because it never happened. I was never your daughter. I was your solution to every financial problem. Maya, that's not fair, Dad said. What's not fair is selling someone's home behind their back. What's not fair is forging legal documents. What's not fair is spending 4 years taking anonymous payments and never once wondering if you should be more grateful. We didn't know they were from you. But you knew someone was helping you. Someone was keeping you from losing everything, and you never once thought maybe you should live within your means instead of relying on charity. It wasn't charity, Mom said weakly. It was exactly charity, and you repaid it by stealing from me. Maya, please. Sasha was crying now. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. With what money? You don't have a job. You've never had a job. You're 27 years old, and you've never supported yourself for a single day. That's not my fault. Whose fault is it? Mom and Dad always said I didn't need to work because I was going to marry well. And how did that work out for you? Maya, stop, Dad said. You're being unnecessarily cruel. Am I? Or am I finally telling the truth about this family? What truth? Mom asked. That you raised one daughter to be responsible and the other to be a parasite. That you've been bleeding me dry for years while convincing yourselves you deserved it. That when I needed you to respect the one thing that was truly mine, you sold it without a second thought. We needed the money for Sasha's wedding. Sasha needed a wedding she could afford, not a $400,000 fantasy funded by fraud. It wasn't fraud, Sasha screamed. Then why are the police investigating it? Because you called them. I didn't call anyone. The bank called them when they discovered forged documents. Maya, Dad's voice was broken now. What do you want from us? What will it take to fix this? Nothing. Nothing? There's nothing you can do to fix this, Dad. You can't unforgeet my signature. You can't unsell my apartment. You can't undo 4 years of taking me for granted. So that's it? Mom asked. You're just going to abandon your family? You abandoned me the moment you decided to steal from me. We're still your family. No, you're not. Family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated me. Maya, please. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I unplugged it from the wall. My cell phone buzzed with text after text. Maya, please call us back. We're sorry. Don't do this to us. You're destroying our family. Please, Maya, we need you. I turned off my phone and sat in the darkness of my hotel room. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. No one was asking me for money. No one was expecting me to fix their problems. No one was taking me for granted. I was finally free. 3 days later, the dominoes were still falling. I turned my phone back on to find 127 missed calls and 89 voicemails. But it wasn't just my family blowing up my phone anymore. Kinley called first thing in the morning, her voice tight with barely contained excitement. Maya, you need to see the news. What news? Local Channel 7 picked up the story. Family fraud scandal rocks, upscale wedding industry. They interviewed Destiny and 3 other vendors who got stiffed. They put it on TV? It gets better. Sasha's Instagram meltdown got picked up by one of those drama channels on TikTok. The video has 2 million views. I pulled up TikTok on my laptop. Sure enough, there was Sasha's face in the thumbnail, mid-scream, with the caption, entitled, Bride's Family Commits Fraud for Dream Wedding. The comments are savage, Kinley continued. Everyone's calling her the poster child for spoiled brat syndrome. What about my parents? Your dad got arrested yesterday. I nearly dropped my phone. What? Disorderly conduct at the bank. Apparently he went in demanding they release the frozen funds and started screaming at the tellers when they explained about the fraud investigation. Jesus. He's out on bail, but Maya, this is escalating fast. The DA's office is considering formal charges. My laptop chimed with an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, Information you need to see. Kinley, I'm getting weird emails now. From who? I opened the message. Someone named Amara from the bank. She says she has information about my parents' financial situation that I need to see. The loan officer who contacted you before? Yeah. She's asking if we can video chat. Do it. Put me on mute, but keep me on the line. I called Amara's number. She answered immediately, looking nervous. Maya, thank you for calling. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I felt you deserved to know the full extent of what's been happening. What do you mean? Your parents have been trying to take out loans using your name and credit for months, even before the apartment sale. That's identity theft. We flagged it and denied the applications, but they kept trying. Different banks, different loan officers. They've been desperate for cash for a long time. How long? Based on what I can see, they've been living paycheck to paycheck since 2019. Without your anonymous payments, they would have lost the house years ago. They told me Dad got a promotion at work. Your father was laid off 18 months ago. He's been collecting unemployment and doing odd jobs, but it's nowhere near enough to maintain their lifestyle. My stomach dropped. They've been lying about everything. There's more. Your sister has been running up credit card debt in your mother's name. Designer clothes, spa treatments, wedding planning expenses. We're talking about $60,000 in unsecured debt. $60,000. And that's just what I can see from our bank. There are probably other creditors. Amara, why are you telling me this? Because they're trying to blame you for their financial problems. They filed a complaint with the police claiming you've been financially abusing them, withholding money that rightfully belongs to the family. That's insane. I know, but they're desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. I wanted you to have the full picture before you come back to town. After she hung up, I unmuted Kinley. Did you hear all that? Every word. Maya, they're trying to frame you as the bad guy. Of course they are. But here's the thing. All this information Amara just gave you, it proves they've been committing fraud for months, not just with your apartment. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Xander. Can we talk? There's something you need to know about Sasha. I showed Kinley the message. Answer it. I called Xander back. Maya, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. What's going on? Sasha's been calling my parents, trying to get them to pay for the wedding. She told them you're mentally unstable and that our families need to manage the situation together. She what? She's claiming you've had a psychotic break, and that's why you're destroying the family. She wants my parents to give her money and help her get you committed for psychiatric evaluation. You're kidding. I wish I was. My mother called me laughing because it was so ridiculous. But Maya, Sasha actually believes this narrative. She's convinced herself that you're the villain and she's the victim. What did your parents say? They told her to lose their number. My family's been dealing with grifters for generations. We know the signs. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Don't be. I'm grateful I found out what kind of family I was marrying into before it was too late. Xander, can I ask you something? Sure. Did Sasha ever mention that I was supporting my parents financially? Never. She always talked about how selfish you were, how you made all this money but never shared it with the family. She said you were jealous of her relationship with your parents. She had no idea I was paying their bills. None. Maya, I think your sister is genuinely delusional. She's created this fantasy where she's the perfect daughter and you're the evil sister who ruins everything out of spite. After we hung up, Kinley whistled low. She's actually trying to get you committed. That's a new low, even for Sasha. Maya, your phone's lighting up again. I looked at the screen. Multiple missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters, I realized. The story's getting bigger. Are you going to talk to them? Hell no. But I am going to do something else. What? I opened my laptop and started typing. I'm going to post the truth. All of it. Bank records, legal documents, everything. If they want to play this game in public, I'll give the public the whole story. Maya, are you sure? Once you put this out there, there's no taking it back. Good. I want everyone to know exactly what kind of people they are. I uploaded the documents to a secure file sharing site and started writing a detailed post explaining everything. The years of financial support, the forged signatures, the fraud, the lies. There, I said, hitting publish. Let's see them spin this. Within minutes, my post was being shared across multiple platforms. The evidence was undeniable, the timeline clear. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Maya, this is Detective Rodriguez. We need to talk. About what? Your parents just filed a restraining order against you, claiming harassment and financial abuse. But based on the evidence you just posted online, I think we need to have a very different conversation. What kind of conversation? The kind where we discuss pressing charges against them for fraud, identity theft, and filing false police reports. I smiled for the first time in days. Detective, I'd be happy to cooperate with that investigation. The hunter had become the hunted, and I was just getting started. The courtroom was packed when I finally flew back home. Detective Rodriguez had fast-tracked the case once my evidence went public, and the media attention made it impossible to ignore. I sat in the front row, watching my parents at the defendant's table. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Mom kept dabbing at her eyes with tissues. Sasha sat behind them, glaring at me with pure hatred. All rise for the Honorable Judge Martinez. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd clearly read every document in the case file. This is a preliminary hearing for charges of fraud, identity theft, and filing false police reports against Albert and Ava Gill. Ms. Maya, you're the complainant? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Gill, you're representing yourself? Dad stood up shakily. Yes, Your Honor. We couldn't afford a lawyer. I see. And Ms. Sasha, you're here as a witness? I'm here to tell the truth about my sister's lies, Sasha said loudly. You'll speak when spoken to, Judge Martinez said sharply. Now, let's review the evidence. The prosecutor laid it out methodically. The forged signatures, the fraudulent sale, the years of financial support my parents had accepted while planning to steal from me, the attempted identity theft for additional loans. Your Honor, Dad said when given the chance to speak, we're a family. Maya's been supporting us for years. We thought the apartment was a family asset. Mr. Gill, did you forge your daughter's signature on legal documents? Well, yes, but did you sell property that belonged to her without her knowledge or consent? Technically, yes, but she wasn't using it. Mr. Gill, there is no technically when it comes to fraud. You either committed these crimes or you didn't. Mom stood up, tears streaming down her face. Your Honor, Maya's been playing games with our family for years. She's been secretly controlling our finances, manipulating us. Mrs. Gill, your daughter was voluntarily paying your bills. That's called generosity, not manipulation. But she never told us. She had no obligation to tell you. The money was hers to give or withhold as she saw fit. Sasha couldn't contain herself anymore. She ruined my wedding. She destroyed our family out of spite. Ms. Sasha, you're out of order. She's a vindictive bitch who, bailiff, remove Ms. Sasha from my courtroom. I watched as security escorted my screaming sister out. Even now, she couldn't accept responsibility for anything. Your Honor, the prosecutor continued, the defendants have also filed false police reports claiming the victim was financially abusing them, when in fact, she was supporting them. I've reviewed those reports, Judge Martinez said. They're clearly retaliatory and without merit. Dad tried one more time. Your Honor, we're willing to make restitution. We can pay Maya back. With what money, Mr. Gill? According to the financial records, you're completely insolvent. We'll figure something out. We're family. Mr. Gill, you forfeited the right to claim family loyalty when you committed fraud against your daughter. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. Dad got 18 months in minimum security prison. Mom got 12 months and probation. Both were ordered to pay full restitution, though everyone knew they'd never be able to. As the courtroom cleared, Kinley squeezed my shoulder. How do you feel? Empty, I said honestly. satisfied, but empty. That's normal. You did the right thing. Did I? I just sent my parents to prison. You held them accountable for their crimes. There's a difference. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. I gave a brief statement about the importance of financial boundaries and family accountability, then got in Kinley's car. "Where to?" she asked. "The apartment. I want to see it." We drove to my old building in silence. The doorman, Carlos, recognized me immediately. "Ms. Maya, we heard about the trouble. I'm so sorry." "Thank you, Carlos. Is the apartment still empty?" "Yes, ma'am. The sale was voided, so it's still yours." I took the elevator up to the 15th floor and opened the door to my home. Everything was exactly as I'd left it 8 months ago. My books on the shelves, my photos on the walls, my life frozen in time. "It feels different," I told Kinley. "How so?" "Smaller, like it belongs to someone else." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then saw it was from Xander. "Maya, I wanted you to know. Sasha's been telling everyone you bribed the judge and fabricated evidence. She started a GoFundMe to fight your lies. It has $12 in donations." I showed Kinley the message. "She's never going to change, is she?" "Probably not. But that's not your problem anymore." "What about my parents?" "What about them?" "They're going to prison because of me. They're going to prison because they committed crimes. You didn't make them forge your signature, Maya. You didn't make them steal from you." I walked to the window and looked out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, my family was dealing with the consequences of their actions. Sasha was probably posting more rants on social media. My parents were probably still trying to figure out how to blame me for their situation. "Kinley?" "Yeah?" "I want to sell this place." "Really?" "Yeah. Too many bad memories now. I want to start fresh somewhere else." "Where will you go?" "I don't know yet. Maybe stay in Singapore? Maybe try somewhere new entirely." "What about your family?" I turned away from the window. "What family?" "The people who raised me are strangers. They showed me exactly who they are when they thought I was powerless to stop them." "Do you regret it? Any of it?" I thought about the question seriously. The years of financial support, the secret payments, the elaborate revenge, the public humiliation, the criminal charges. "No," I said finally. "I regret that it came to this, but I don't regret standing up for myself. For the first time in my life, I chose me over them." "And how does that feel?" "Terrifying, liberating, lonely." I paused. "But right." My phone rang. It was Detective Rodriguez. "Maya, I wanted to let you know. We've had 3 other families come forward with similar stories after seeing your case in the news. Parents stealing from adult children, forging signatures, financial abuse. Your case is opening doors for other victims." "That's good, I guess." "It is good. You stood up for yourself, and now others feel empowered to do the same." After he hung up, I looked around the apartment one more time. "Ready to go?" Kinley asked. "Yeah, I'm ready." We locked up and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal. I looked different. Older, maybe. Definitely harder. But also free. "Kinley?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for everything. That's what friends are for." "Real friends, you mean?" "The only kind worth having." As we walked out of the building, I deleted my parents' contact information from my phone. Then Sasha's. Then every relative who'd sent me angry messages about destroying the family. The phone felt lighter in my hand. Some bridges are meant to burn. And sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to walk away from the ashes and never look back. I was finally free to find out who I was when I wasn't busy being everyone else's solution. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough.
At the age of 12, my life changed dramatically when my family moved from Kenya to Canada. This transition opened up a vibrant new world filled with exciting opportunities, diverse cultures, and welcoming people. My father's success as a businessman ensured we enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle, making it easier to adapt to our new surroundings. During high school, I met Russell, the person who would later become my husband. Our relationship had its share of ups and downs over the years, but by the time I turned 22, we decided to take the leap and get married. I was ecstatic, envisioning a future filled with love and happiness. However, one significant hurdle lay ahead: Russell's mother, Doris, who was openly opposed to our marriage plans. I couldn't shake the feeling that her objections were partly rooted in my Kenyan heritage. Doris often made subtle, unsettling comments that left me feeling unwelcome. In contrast, Russell remained unfazed by the tension. He cherished our relationship and valued me for who I was rather than my background. Despite his mother's disapproval, he consistently affirmed his commitment to us. Our wedding day was emotionally complex. While I was thrilled to marry Russell, the shadow of Doris's disapproval loomed over us. Determined to focus on our love, I tried to ignore the negativity. In the days that followed, Doris's disdain became more pronounced. She frequently made disparaging remarks about my culture, which was painful. Despite my desire for a harmonious relationship with her, it seemed increasingly unattainable. Russell attempted to bridge the gap between us, promising to address the issues with his mother. Torn between his love for both Doris and me, he did his best to mediate, but the atmosphere remained tense. Doris's continuous jabs and intrusive questions about my background were disheartening and began to take a toll on my mental health. Despite these challenges, Russell and I focused on building our life together, moving into our own place, and pursuing our careers. However, Doris's persistent disapproval cast a shadow over our happiness, leading to a point where her remarks became unbearable. I had always prided myself on staying calm and treating everyone with kindness, but eventually Doris's hurtful comments pushed me too far. In a moment of frustration, I raised my voice for the first time. "Doris, I've truly had enough of your incessant comments. They're tiresome." "Oh, I'm just expressing my opinions. There's no need for you to be so defensive," she replied. "It feels like you're relentlessly targeting me because of my background. I deserve the same respect as anyone else. I'm not trying to offend, but you seem overly sensitive about everything." "This isn't about sensitivity, it's about respect. I am your daughter-in-law and should be treated with kindness and understanding. Perhaps if you tried to fit in a bit more, I wouldn't need to make these remarks." "Fit in? I've been part of this community for years. This is my home, too. I shouldn't have to alter who I am just to appease you. And just so you know, I never sought your permission to marry your son, nor did I wish for it. I know you had different plans for him." "That's unfair. We love each other, and that should matter to you. If only you were from a more traditional background, perhaps I'd be more accepting." "I don't need your acceptance. I take immense pride in my heritage and refuse to let you belittle me for it. Your prejudice is your burden to bear." "Well, maybe things would have been simpler if you'd married someone from your own culture." "That's irrelevant. We are married, and you need to accept that. Your ongoing disapproval is causing us pain, and I won't allow you to dampen our happiness." "I never expected you to speak to me like this. Why are you being so aggressive?" "Perhaps you never anticipated that I would stand up for myself. I'm done trying to please you. If this is how you feel, it might be best for us to keep our distance." "That suits me just fine," she replied. "I deserve to be surrounded by people who respect and appreciate me for who I am." "You're being unreasonable." "No, I'm simply tired of being mistreated. I'm part of your family now, whether you like it or not, and it's time you start treating me that way. If you can't manage that, then maybe it's better for us to maintain some space." "Suit yourself," she said coldly. "I will, and I hope you take some time to reflect on how your actions affect your relationship with your son," I retorted, deciding it was time to leave. "Perhaps when you're ready to treat me with the respect I deserve, we can talk again. Until then, take care." I left the room, feeling a tumultuous mix of anger and sadness. Confronting Doris had been difficult, but standing up for myself was necessary. From that moment, I knew our relationship might be irreparably damaged. Yet I felt confident in my decision. I deserved respect and would no longer tolerate subtle jabs or hurtful comments. My focus had to remain on my marriage and building the joyful life with Russell, regardless of Doris's disapproval. When I shared the details of our confrontation with Russell, he surprised me with his unwavering support. He even told his mother that she needed to treat me with respect. However, the situation escalated dramatically when Doris threatened to disown him, shocking both of us. I could see the pain in Russell's eyes. His mother's willingness to cut him off for defending his wife was heartbreaking. Yet this difficult situation helped us realize something crucial. We didn't need toxic people in our lives, even if they were family. We deserve love and respect, and if someone couldn't provide that, they didn't deserve a place in our lives. As hard as it was to witness Doris's behavior, it served as a wake-up call for Russell. He began to understand that his mother's negativity and disapproval were holding him back from true happiness. It was time for him to move beyond the toxicity and build a life with me based on love and mutual understanding. Months passed since Doris cut ties with us. Although Russell was deeply affected by his mother's decision, he still missed her despite everything she had said and done. I want to support him in finding closure, hoping to pave the way for potential reconciliation. I planned a dinner date at Russell's favorite restaurant, hoping it would bring him some comfort and perhaps signal a new beginning for us. When we arrived and I gave my name, the host looked puzzled and informed me that my name was on the blacklist. I was taken aback. Russell and I had always been regular patrons. Confused and eager to clear up this misunderstanding, I requested to speak with the manager. To our astonishment, the manager emerged, revealing herself to be none other than Doris. During the months we hadn't seen her, she had taken on a new role. Managing this very restaurant, Applebee's, our favorite spot, it felt too calculated to be a mere coincidence, and a wave of shock and disbelief washed over me at her pettiness. Well, what do we have here? I never thought I'd see the day when you two would show up at my restaurant. Doris greeted us, not missing a beat as she informed us that we were not welcome. Russell's frustration bubbled over, and he began to raise his voice, drawing the attention of other diners. I felt torn, wanting to support him while also trying to prevent the situation from escalating further. Doris, we didn't come here to cause trouble. We just wanted to enjoy a peaceful dinner. I tried to reason with her. We just want a peaceful dinner. A peaceful dinner with the likes of you? I don't think so. It's quite amusing to see you both here, practically begging to be let in after everything that's happened, Doris retorted smugly. What are you talking about, Mom? We've always loved this place. Now you're saying we're not welcome? Russell asked, incredulous. It's quite simple. When he chose to marry her against my wishes, I had to make a decision. I couldn't allow my son to make such a dreadful mistake, so I decided to protect my business from your poor choices, Doris explained coldly. You're sick, Mom. It's disgusting that you're doing this on purpose just to spite us, Russell accused, his voice filled with dismay. Oh please, Russell. I'm just looking out for my reputation. I can't have people like you associating with my business. Doris dismissed him. This is ridiculous. Mom, you're choosing your bigotry over your son. I thought you were better than this, Russell lamented, hurt evident in his voice. You're the one who chose this path. Don't blame me for the decisions you've made, Doris shot back sharply. As she spoke, all eyes in the restaurant were fixed on us, casting an uncomfortable spotlight on the confrontation. It was deeply embarrassing to be escorted out of Applebee's, a place we had once enjoyed so freely. Let's just leave. Arguing won't change her mind, I suggested quietly, eager to escape the escalating tension. You're right, Janice. It's not worth it, Russell replied, disappointment etched on his face. And don't come back. No one wants you here, Doris called after us, her voice dripping with disdain. Once outside, we wandered aimlessly down the street. Russell was clearly upset, so I encouraged him to open up about his feelings, especially regarding Applebee's. Let it all out, Russell. How are you really feeling? I know this place meant more to you than just a restaurant. Applebee's was where my dad and I bonded. We'd sit by the window, order our favorite meals, and just talk for hours about everything. It's where we connected, he explained, his voice heavy with loss. That sounds so meaningful, and I can't believe Doris would use it to hurt you like this. Especially knowing how much those moments with your dad meant to you. It's just so unfair. She knows how special Applebee's is to me, and yet she chose to use it against us just because she doesn't approve of our marriage. You deserve so much better than this, Russell. I wish I could fix this. It's awful to see someone trying to dismantle what we have. I always thought family was meant to support each other, not tear one another apart, Russell said, frustration etched on his face. It's tough to make sense of why she acts this way, but sometimes people let their biases get the best of them. We might not be able to change that, but we can choose how we respond. I reassured him. You're right. I'm done letting her negativity affect us. What matters is that we have each other. Exactly. We'll face this together. And actually, I have some news that might brighten your day a bit, I said, trying to shift the mood. What's that? He asked, curiosity piqued despite the somber atmosphere. Well, it turns out my dad recently acquired the entire block of buildings on this street, including Applebee's, I revealed. Really? Why didn't you mention this before? It just happened. He finalized the deal with the investors recently, and I was still grappling with how everything would unfold. I had planned to share the news during a celebratory dinner at the restaurant. That's incredible, Janice. I need to congratulate him later, Russell said, genuinely impressed. We can do that later, but right now we need to address your mom, I replied, steering the conversation back to the pressing issue. My dad is quite formidable in business matters, and he won't take kindly to how Doris treated us. He's going to handle this situation. Feeling a mix of urgency and determination, I decided to call my dad and put him on speakerphone so Russell could listen in. I explained everything that had transpired at Applebee's. My dad was upset by the news. I knew Doris wasn't fond of you, but to kick you out of a restaurant, that's a new low. I'm sorry I hadn't reviewed the documents sooner. I only just received the title deeds for this property and hadn't had the chance to evaluate all the managers yet. But rest assured, I'll take care of this immediately. Don't worry at all. Give me 20 minutes and I'll be there to sort this out personally, he assured us. Hearing my dad's determined words brought me a sense of relief, though it was tinged with concern about what might unfold next. I knew my dad was more than capable of handling the situation, but I hoped it wouldn't escalate into something messier. He wasn't someone to be trifled with, especially in business, and he firmly believed in treating customers with fairness and compassion. So Russell and I waited nervously outside Applebee's, trusting that my dad would resolve the issue appropriately. We weren't exactly sure what he planned to do, but we believed in his judgment. Moments later, my dad arrived, walking with a confident stride that suggested he was ready to take on whatever needed to be done. As he entered, he called out for Doris, his voice carrying enough weight for everyone inside to hear. The tension in the restaurant was palpable as heads turned to watch the unfolding scene. Doris stepped forward, visibly annoyed by the interruption. She probably thought she could dismiss my father just as easily as she had dismissed us. But he wasn't one to be brushed aside lightly. He raised an eyebrow at her and began with a tone of concern. Doris, my dear, it seems you haven't been keeping up with the latest developments. Did they forget to inform you about the new owner of the 2nd Green Avenue complex? Doris appeared visibly shaken, clearly caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. What are you talking about? Who is it? She stammered, confusion lacing her voice. My dad couldn't suppress a small knowing smile. Well, that would be me. I'm the new owner, and I must say, I've been here for less than a week and I'm already receiving troubling complaints about your management. Doris's complexion turned a shade paler as the reality of her predicament sank in. I didn't know that, she muttered, flustered. Well, perhaps if you had checked your emails or paid closer attention to what's happening around you, you might have known. But it's too late for apologies now, my dad replied with a chuckle. It was satisfying to see Doris on the receiving end of the treatment she had dished out to us. Russell, who had been quietly seething by my side, stepped forward with resolve. You had no right to treat us, or anyone, the way you did, especially Janice. We've always known you harbored ill will, but as someone in charge of a public establishment, you should have been the first to understand that discrimination based on personal prejudices is unacceptable. You've clearly violated that principle, and I don't think you're fit to manage this place. Now, desperate, Doris pleaded. Wait, I'm sorry. I pointed out to Doris, even if you didn't know he was the owner, you should have treated all customers fairly without letting your personal biases interfere. Please, let's discuss this privately. Doris attempted to salvage the situation. There's no need, my dad interjected, his voice ringing loud enough for everyone to hear. I think everyone here would be interested to know that the person managing Applebee's who allowed her racism to interfere with her professional duties is no longer part of the staff. The murmurs in the restaurant grew louder, fueled by the unfolding drama. Doris, utterly embarrassed, could only stand in silence as the reality of her actions sank in. Russell and I watched, relieved that justice was being served. We felt a surge of relief and triumph, finally receiving some reparation after enduring Doris's harsh treatment for so long. My dad decisively handled the situation, warning her that he would call security to escort her out if she didn't leave voluntarily. Embarrassed and on the brink of tears, Doris began her walk of shame out of the restaurant. As she made her exit, the mood in the room instantly lifted. People began to clap and cheer, celebrating her departure. A profound sense of relief washed over me. Russell and I immediately went over to my dad, giving him a big hug to thank him for his decisive intervention. "You're the best, Dad," I said with a smile. He chuckled, giving us both a reassuring pat on the back. "It was my pleasure, my dear. I couldn't stand by and watch you two suffer because of her." Dad excused himself to check on the kitchen staff and find the next in command to appoint as the acting manager in the wake of the upheaval. He returned shortly after, explaining that he had important business matters to finalize, including formally terminating Doris and organizing the paperwork for the new acting manager. "Okay, my work here is done for now. You two enjoy your meal in the house," he said, signaling for us to take a seat and relax. As we settled down at a table, a whirlwind of emotions enveloped me. I was still processing how swiftly everything had escalated. Above all, I felt incredibly grateful for my dad's support and the strength he provided during this challenging time. It was comforting to know that no matter what happened, we had someone on our side, ready to step in when needed. When I married Jerry, I was fortunate to inherit some real estate from my grandparents. They advised me to use it wisely to secure our future, but also suggested I keep it confidential, even from Jerry. They believed it was prudent to maintain a passive income that only I controlled, ensuring I'd always have financial security. Unfortunately, Jerry has a habit of overstepping boundaries, particularly regarding possessions and finances. For instance, he once tried to redistribute gifts I had bought for my parents, giving them to his parents to enhance his image. His actions troubled me, especially when he reacted poorly to being confronted about them. Recently, a much more alarming incident occurred. I discovered $22,000 had been withdrawn from an account I managed, intended for our living expenses. This account was meant to complement the income Jerry contributed to our household, and I had no recollection of making such a large withdrawal. The only possible explanation was that Jerry had taken the money. When I confronted him, he nonchalantly admitted that he had lent the funds to his mother, Kayla, who was going through some difficulties. He did this without informing or consulting me. The revelation was shocking, not just because of the large sum involved, but also because it demonstrated a lack of communication and respect for our mutual financial decisions. This incident made me rethink the dynamics of our relationship. If our marriage isn't built on mutual respect and transparency, especially regarding finances, it may be time to reconsider our future together. The assumption that one spouse's earnings automatically belong to the other without any discussion is not a sustainable way to manage a marriage. If this approach continues, we may need to face the possibility of separation. Although the money was originally mine, earned through hard work, and we still have some savings, the loss isn't financially catastrophic. If Kayla was truly facing difficulties, I understand the need to help. However, I would have appreciated a simple conversation beforehand. The account is ours after all. If Jerry had taken the money from a personal account he set up before our marriage, I wouldn't have been as upset. But withdrawing such a large sum from our shared account without discussion felt like a breach of trust. When I expressed my disappointment, Jerry seemed irritated and dismissed my concerns. He promised, albeit reluctantly, to inform me next time before making any major financial decisions. Then, he excused himself to the bathroom, leaving me feeling unsettled. It wasn't like the early days of our marriage when Jerry would genuinely listen and value my input. Is this what change in a marriage looks like? A few days later, I visited my in-laws to deliver a package that had mistakenly been sent to our address. My mother-in-law, Amy, greeted me warmly and invited me in for tea. Though I had planned just to drop off the package, I accepted. While there, I noticed several luxurious items around the house: expensive cosmetics, stylish clothing, and health products. Amy mentioned, almost casually, that these were all gifts from Jerry. The realization hit me hard. The missing $22,000 had been used not out of necessity, but for extravagant purchases. The idea that Jerry had lent money to his mother for emergencies suddenly seemed like a gross exaggeration. This misuse of funds made me question not only our financial partnership but also the respect and communication in our marriage. As I sat there quietly sipping my tea, the atmosphere shifted. My in-laws' smiles faded, and they began to look at me with a strange mix of fear and accusation. Amy's tone turned confrontational as she remarked, "My son is such a wonderful, generous boy, always buying gifts for me. But what about you? As his wife, are you taking good care of my wonderful son? There seems to be some trouble. I heard from Jerry that you've been giving him a hard time for using the money to help me." It became clear that Jerry had portrayed himself as a victim to his parents, a good son, simply helping his mother in need. This explained their fearful and defensive attitude toward me. The revelation drained the last bit of patience I had, not only with my in-laws but with Jerry as well. I never expected such a lack of support and understanding in my marriage, and the thought of divorce started to feel like a real possibility. I began envisioning a post-divorce future where I would move back into my parents' home. It was a two-story house, over 32 years old, built before my brother was born. It had once comfortably housed our family of 5, but now it stood mostly empty, becoming impractical for my aging parents who struggled with mobility. Although the house had been modified with handrails, its spacious layout was more of a challenge than a comfort. A one-story home would be far more suitable for their needs. With the financial security from my passive income, I realized I could rebuild their home into something more comfortable and accessible for them. This idea filled me with both resolve and relief, so I called my parents to discuss not only my decision to divorce but also my plan to renovate their house. Surprisingly, my parents weren't shocked by the news of the divorce. Their calm reaction solidified my decision. It seemed they understood my need for a fresh start. When I brought up the idea of reconstructing their home, I could hear genuine joy in their voices. "We're so glad you're thinking of rebuilding the house for us." "Thank you," they said. They reassured me that even if they couldn't live there for much longer, it wouldn't be an issue since I could eventually take over the house, which would be funded by my own income. "Well, I'll start planning it bit by bit," I replied, feeling encouraged by their support. "Just take it easy and don't overdo it," they advised, their words instantly lifting my spirits as I began organizing the rebuild of my parents' home. It felt like the start of something new, a fresh chapter not only for them but for me as well. I had been waiting for a response from the construction company when Jerry suddenly confronted me, his anger palpable. "How dare you use our savings to build a house without telling me anything about it?" he accused, slamming his fist on the living room table. His voice grew louder, completely disregarding my feelings. "My parents will be living in the new house," I said firmly, trying to keep my composure. "That's impossible," Jerry roared, his face reddening. "That house was built for my parents to live in." He insisted that since he viewed the funds as our shared property, his parents had as much right to the house as mine. "Are you seriously planning to cram 5 people into that tiny one-story house? Just give me the house," he demanded, banging the table harder with every word. Fearing how much worse his reaction would be if he discovered the truth about the passive income I had kept secret, I realized it was time to reveal everything. "To tell you the truth, I have passive income," I confess, feeling the weight of my grandparents' trust. "It's from the real estate my grandparents gifted me, and I use that income to pay for the rebuild. Not a single penny came from our shared savings." The guilt of breaking my grandparents' promise to keep this secret gnawed at me, but I had no choice. As I spoke, Jerry's anger escalated. His face twisted in fury, his shoulders shaking, and his fists slammed the table even harder. "What kind of wife hides an income from her husband? You spend my money but protect your own with secrets," he shouted, his words cutting deep. His reaction clarified everything that had gone wrong in our marriage: lack of trust, respect, and any sense of partnership. The issues had been festering beneath the surface for too long, and now they were impossible to ignore. "I'll take the house as alimony," Jerry sneered, his arrogance shocking me. "Any house built while we're married is mine too. I'm the head of the family, and if you disobey me, I'll divorce you." I stared at him in disbelief. How had I spent so many years with a man who could so easily dismiss my feelings, my contributions? The passive income had been meant as a safeguard for our future. If his earnings fell short or if something happened that left me unable to work, it was meant to protect both of us, not drive a wedge between us. Now, I saw clearly that my grandparents had been right to advise me to keep it a secret. They must have seen something in Jerry long before I did. I had planned to share my passive income with Jerry when the time was right, but after everything, I no longer felt any desire to use that money on him. Frustrated, I stood up and left the house, needing space from the suffocating atmosphere. I spent the night at a business hotel to clear my head and think through my next steps. When I returned home the next morning, Jerry was waiting for me with a sly, unsettling smile. He smirked as he approached, holding a sheet of paper he'd been hiding behind his back, divorce papers already filled out. "You're lying about your passive income, aren't you?" he sneered. "You made that up to cover for stealing from our common savings." His baseless accusations were tiresome despite my honesty about the passive income I had from my grandparents. No matter how much I insisted on the truth, Jerry was stuck in his own narrative, refusing to believe me. "It's the truth. I have passive income," I said once more, but I could see he wasn't interested in listening. His inability to trust or respect me was the final straw. It became painfully clear that this marriage offered none of the support or partnership I needed. The path forward was now inevitable. With a smug grin, Jerry shoved the divorce papers into my hand and said, "You let me know when my parents can move into the house, right?" He patted me on the shoulder, as if this was all some joke, then walked out the door, humming as he mentioned he was off for a drink. In that moment, everything clicked. Jerry had been concealing his disdain for me throughout our marriage. He had never truly valued my feelings or respected my perspective. The realization stung, but it also brought clarity and freedom. I didn't hesitate. I packed my things right then and there, filled out the divorce papers, and left the house for good. I moved in with my parents temporarily, explaining the situation to them. We agreed I would stay with them until the new house was completed. The next day, I noticed my phone flooded with missed calls from Jerry. When he called again, I decided to answer, hoping it would be our final conversation. "How?" "Hey, all your stuff is gone," he said impatiently, sounding confused by my actions. "What's going on?" Why was he panicking? He had pushed for the divorce after all. "We're getting divorced, Jerry," I replied calmly. "It's normal that I wouldn't stay. I will be coming back, so feel free to use the empty space however you like." There was a pause on the other end. Maybe, for the first time, Jerry realized that I had resources he couldn't control. Then suddenly his tone shifted. His voice became unusually sweet, a side of him I had never heard before. "Hey, would you let my parents live in the new house?" he asked, almost pleading. I hung up without a second thought. I finally moved on. "I don't care if I have to live with your parents. Please." Jerry's please stunned me. "I already told you, it's a small one-story house," I reminded him, incredulous. "And it's meant as a surprise for my parents." His suggestion was absurd. Not only was he proposing to give away a house he hadn't contributed to, but he spoke as though it was his to offer. His reckless disregard for reality left me speechless. "You don't care about the savings, do you?" Jerry continued, oblivious to my growing frustration. "You have no idea how much I worried about the money I set aside for you as an allowance, and the funds I saved for our living expenses." This conversation only solidified my decision. Jerry's understanding of our finances and our relationship was completely skewed. Moving forward without him was no longer a choice, it was a necessity. I explained to him the efforts I had put into managing our finances, how I had struggled to make ends meet, but he brushed it off, dismissing the significance of my sacrifices. "That has nothing to do with what's happening here," he said coldly. "You're careless with money, leaving the hassle to other people. And now you're presenting yourself to your parents like you did everything on your own." I confronted him, pointing out how he always tried to take credit for my hard work. His sudden silence only intensified my frustration. It became clear he was trying to paint himself as the mastermind behind everything, wanting to gift the house I built for my parents to his own, capitalizing on my sincerity just to impress them. His behavior was shallow, deceptive, and utterly insulting. "In the end, you're just trying to take advantage of my goodwill and claim what isn't yours," I said firmly, my voice unwavering. "There is no justification for trampling on my feelings and intentions like this. I will not give you the house I built with all my heart for my parents just so you can show off." Jerry grew louder, perhaps out of desperation. "Husbands and wives are supposed to help each other. I'll tell them you built it, please. We're not a married couple anymore, are we?" I cut him off. "We're strangers now. I already filed for divorce, remember? His face fell, realizing that the boundaries I had drawn were final. On the day Jerry handed me those divorce papers, he may have thought he was in control, but now he knew otherwise. I submitted the divorce papers to the city office immediately. Jerry had been the one pushing for it, but when faced with the reality of our separation, he seemed stunned. "You already filed? Why are you so surprised when you're the one who asked for the divorce?" I asked, incredulous. "Oh, I didn't think you'd actually leave me. Hey, let's start over. We can talk it out and be a good couple this time," he pleaded, as if unaware of the gravity of his actions. How could he say such a thing now? This was a man who had squandered our savings on his mother, threatened me with divorce, and ridiculed me to the bitter end. Reconciliation was out of the question. "No, thank you. Please give my regards to your parents," I said brightly before ending the call. The next day, my phone was flooded with voicemails and messages from Jerry, still demanding that we get back together. His persistence was baffling and completely unwelcome. His repeated attempts to reconcile only affirmed my decision to move on. Jerry claimed we could start over and that he loved me, but I sensed his real interest was in my property and fortune, not in our relationship. To sever ties completely, I blocked all contact from him and his parents. Meanwhile, the construction of the new house was finished and my parents and I moved in. We now live comfortably in the home I built, surrounded by peace and contentment. Sometime later, I ran into a mutual friend who also knew Jerry, and I shared the news of our divorce. My friend offered kind words and updated me on Jerry's situation. It turned out that Jerry had abruptly quit his job, claiming he no longer needed to work hard because he had acquired real estate. When his company couldn't reach him, they were left scrambling. The next day, Jerry tried to retract his resignation, but his bosses, frustrated by his sudden disappearance, demanded an explanation. Unable to admit that he had been banking on my income, Jerry lied about his circumstances. Eventually, the truth about our divorce came out, and his lies were exposed. His company refused to rehire him, realizing he had tried to manipulate the situation for his gain. Ironically, the man who once scoffed at my passive income, suggesting it was a lie, now found himself in a precarious position. He returned to live with his parents, who were understandably upset. He's now struggling to find a new job, his reputation marred by his dubious exit from his last employment. As for me, life has moved forward in a positive direction. I'm living with my parents in the house I built, working a job I love, and enjoying life. The passive income I had once saved for our future together will now be used to support the people who have always stood by me. This turn of events has brought me a renewed sense of peace, and it's clear that moving on was the best decision for my well-being. Ever since we exchanged vows, my husband, a classic mama's boy, had been noticeably absent from household chores. His dependence on me became painfully clear when I mentioned an upcoming business trip. Panic set in as he exclaimed, "Who will take care of me while you're gone?" After a heated argument, I left for my week-long journey. When I returned, I found a note next to completed divorce papers. It read, "Since you abandoned the housework, I'm going back to my parents. Consider the divorce papers and think it over." Rage boiled inside me at his audacity to threaten divorce, but as I calmed down, I began to see a glimmer of clarity. Perhaps this was the push I needed. Maybe a divorce wasn't such a bad idea after all. Resolved, I filed the papers the very next day. The following morning, my astonished husband stormed in, demanding to know where the divorce papers were. When I told him I had filed them, he broke down, utterly baffled and crying uncontrollably. "My name is Grace, and at 32 years old, I've been married just over a year. After college, I diligently climbed the ranks at a prominent company. Approaching my 30s without a romantic partner, my parents pressured me to settle down, leading me to reluctantly join a dating agency. That's where I met Edward, a soft-spoken man a few years younger than me who worked at a mixed firm. We connected over several dates, and his respectful demeanor made me think he was the one. When he proposed, I was overjoyed, envisioning a life together. However, our marriage unveiled challenges I hadn't anticipated. After our engagement, during a visit to my parents, they impressed upon us that marriage is a lifelong commitment. "Grace, always be there for Edward," they advised, and I nodded while Edward listened intently. Next, we visited Edward's parents. His father, Arthur, welcomed me warmly, saying, "I've heard so much about you from my boy. It's great to finally meet you." His mother, Michelle, was more reserved, scrutinizing me before asking, "Is this the one?" Edward confidently replied, "Yep, Mommy. I want to marry her." I was taken aback by his use of Mommy and Michelle's bluntness. Arthur quickly stepped in, apologizing for her directness and assuring me, "We're very happy about your marriage, but just so you know, Edward has had it pretty easy here. He might be a bit of a challenge." I reassured them, "I adore Edward's gentle side, and I know we'll support each other." Arthur turned to Edward, urging him to step up and keep me happy. Edward nodded earnestly, and not long after, we celebrated our union with a low-key wedding. To our delight, my parents gifted us a condo, marking the beginning of our married life. However, it soon became evident that Edward was unaccustomed to household responsibilities. One morning, while I was busy with laundry and preparing breakfast, Edward's alarm rang at 8, yet he continued to sleep soundly. Despite my efforts to wake him, he wouldn't budge. Finally, I pulled off his covers and gave him a gentle shake. Slowly, he opened his eyes, groggily exclaiming, "Wow, it's 8:10 already. Why didn't you wake me up?" I reminded him that I had tried and that his alarm was blaring too. "Now please eat your breakfast." As he rubbed his eyes and shuffled to the table, he immediately complained about the eggs. "Hey Grace, this egg is too runny. I can't eat this unless it's well done. Make it over," he demanded, caught off guard while I hung laundry. I struggled to hold back my irritation and snapped, "Then don't eat it. Why would you say that? And this coffee is scorching hot. Mommy always got the eggs and coffee just right." All right, I sighed, quickly redoing the eggs and letting the coffee cool. He ate hurriedly, leaving his plate on the table as he rushed toward the restroom. "Wait up, you know you should clean up after yourself." I called after him, but he dismissed my concerns. "Gee, I'm short on time." Annoyed, I paused my makeup routine to clean the dishes while picking out my outfit. Then he called out again, "Grace, over here. Help with my tie." There he stood, tie hanging limply around his neck, looking utterly helpless. "Seriously, you can't even tie your tie? What did you do before we got married?" "Mommy always did it," he replied sheepishly. With a deep exhale, I tied his tie, and somehow we both managed to leave the house. This had become our routine. He never helped with any housework, and it felt like I was juggling everything while babysitting him too. Every time an issue arose, it was always, "Mommy did it this way," or "With Mommy, it went like that," always referencing his mother, Michelle. This pattern dragged on for a year, and as the pressures mounted, thoughts of divorce began to creep into my mind. My father's insistence that marriage is forever echoed in my thoughts, tempering my frustrations. However, an unexpected hiccup at work led to a week-long business trip starting the next day. When I broke the news to my husband that evening, he paused his video game, clearly surprised. "Hold up, a business trip for a whole week? It's out of my hands. Work's calling," I explained. "No way. Who's going to cover for you here for a week?" he asked, irritation creeping into his voice. "You'll have to step up. It's about time you got a grip on the household duties." I responded, and he set down his controller, locking eyes with me. "Isn't the wife supposed to care for her husband in the house? Are you just bailing on that?" His question was steeped in outdated expectations. "Seriously, that's such old school thinking. We both have jobs. We should be a team," I countered. "That's not how I see it. Mommy was always on top of things at home," he retorted. I couldn't help but point out, "But she was a stay-at-home mom." Honestly, it's kind of odd hearing an adult man constantly talk about Mommy. He bristled at my words. "What's your deal? Taking shots at me and my mommy?" "I'm not, but let's be real. You're a mama's boy. This is how you see me. You think you can talk to me like that?" His defensiveness escalated, and I felt my frustration peak. "Face it, you're a mama's boy. You can't get up without help. You can't even tie your tie. And you won't lift a finger around the house. You're constantly comparing me to your mom. For once, handle your stuff." "Really? You're going to come at me like that?" That's why I was iffy about marrying someone older. "Should have sided with Mommy and chosen a younger, perkier girl," he shot back. His words struck a nerve, and our conversation spiraled into a major blowout. "Even joking, you shouldn't say stuff like that. We're married," I said, trying to anchor the conversation to the commitment we had made to each other. The tension was palpable, revealing the deep rifts that had formed in our relationship. When my husband hinted at divorce during our heated argument, I was taken aback. With a smug tone, he challenged, "You can't possibly want a divorce, can you? You wouldn't want to be labeled divorced. And think about what your dad said about sticking together." Then, with a sharp edge, he added, "Well, I just did. If you go on this business trip and leave me here alone, I'm seriously considering a divorce." With those words, he stormed off to our bedroom, leaving me stunned. Despite the shock, the idea of divorce lingered in my mind, a thought I had previously wrestled with, fearing I would disappoint my parents. But now it seemed like a viable option to consider seriously. Heavy with these thoughts, I went to bed. The next day, I woke early to prepare for my trip. The fallout from our argument still weighed heavily on me, but I had work commitments to attend to. I nudged Edward, who was still curled up under the covers. "I'm heading out. You'd better wake up or you'll be late for work." His response was a sleepy mumble, unintelligible and dismissive. Rolling my eyes, I left. A few hours later, a text from him popped up on my phone. "You barely tried to wake me. Now I'm running late. Did you really go on that trip?" I quickly replied, "I did wake you up, and yes, I'm on my trip. I'll be back in a week." He read my message but didn't reply. Mid-trip, I decided to call my parents to update them on Edward's behavior and share my growing inclination toward divorce. I braced myself for a lecture, unsure how they would react to the possibility of our marriage ending. The call was going to be difficult, but I needed their advice and support. Their response took me by surprise. "We had no idea he behaved like this. Take your time to think, but don't force yourself to stay in a situation that isn't right. Always remember, we're in your corner, no matter what you decide." Their words of unconditional support brought tears to my eyes. Upon returning from my business trip, I felt a mix of clarity and determination. I knew a serious conversation with Edward was inevitable. If he didn't show any signs of change, I was ready to consider divorce more seriously. My mind buzzed with thoughts as I walked into our house late in the evening, only to find Edward wasn't home yet. As I looked around, a set of signed divorce papers and a note on the table caught my attention. The note read, "Since you ditched the housework, I'm heading back to my folks. Check out the divorce papers and think things over." My initial reaction was rage. How dare he threaten me with divorce? But as my anger subsided, I began to see the situation differently. Maybe this was a sign that ending things might not be such a bad idea after all. With that realization, I decided to file the papers. When the divorce was finalized, I felt a heavy weight lift from my shoulders. That evening, I went to bed and slept more soundly than I had in a long time. The next morning, as I enjoyed a peaceful cup of coffee, the door swung open and in walked Edward, clearly upset. "Why didn't you come to my parents' place to apologize? What's gotten into you?" he demanded, his temper flaring. Then, noticing the empty spot where the divorce papers had been, his expression shifted from anger to shock. "Hold on, where are the divorce papers?" "Oh, I filed them," I replied calmly. "You did what?" He looked as if he had been slapped. "You went through with it. Thanks for signing them. It made everything smoother," I said, trying to keep my composure. "You can't be serious. Did you really go all the way? Have you lost your mind?" he exclaimed, unable to hide his astonishment at my decisiveness. Seeing how composed I remained sent him into a complete frenzy. "That's it. I'm calling my parents." "Sure, knock yourself out," I replied, unfazed by his threat. I knew I had made the right decision for myself. An hour after the confrontation, I felt a sense of clarity settling in. When Edward's parents, Michelle and Arthur, arrived at our apartment, Michelle immediately spotted me and dramatically exclaimed, "You! How could you just divorce Edward like that? What's wrong with you?" I replied coolly, "If he had the divorce papers all filled out and ready to go, doesn't that suggest he wanted out? Is that a problem?" "How can you be so bold when you're just his wife?" she shot back. Before the situation could escalate, Arthur intervened, his voice firm. "Enough." The room fell silent as he turned to me. "Grace, can you walk us through what happened?" I agreed and began to detail the ongoing issues, our argument before my trip, and the divorce papers Edward had left for me. I was at my wit's end. It seemed like he wanted a divorce, so I went with it. I maintained eye contact with Arthur, hoping to convey the depth of my frustration. Just as I finished, Edward interjected, "Mom, Dad, come on, can't you see she's out of line? Tell her off." Michelle quickly sided with Edward. "Oh, Edward, my poor baby, she's being so hasty. You should reverse the divorce right now." "There's no reversing it. Our divorce is final. We're strangers now, I stated firmly. Michelle's face turned red, and she opened her mouth to respond. But once again, Arthur cut her off. Zip it, Michelle. He then turned to me, apologizing for Edward's behavior. Then facing Edward, whose eyes were wide with surprise, Arthur continued, You bonehead. I knew you had issues, but this, using divorce papers as a threat, unbelievable. You had it coming. Michelle tried to interject, but Arthur wouldn't let up. It's partly on you, Michelle. You spoiled him. Watch out. If you keep this up, I might divorce you too. The tension in the room was palpable as Arthur confronted the reality of the situation, leaving Edward and Michelle speechless. After the intense discussion, Michelle appeared visibly shaken, her mind lingering on Arthur's unexpected threat of divorce. She murmured to herself, troubled. Arthur then turned his attention back to me, his expression marked by sincere regret. Grace, I deeply regret the trouble our clueless son has caused you. It's clear he has a lot to learn. Please move on and find happiness in your life, Arthur implored, his concern genuine. I thanked Arthur for his understanding and watched as he left, taking a dejected Edward with him. It didn't take long for the news to spread through our circle. Arthur had decided to sever financial and emotional ties with Edward, a drastic move aimed at pushing him towards self-sufficiency. Soon after, Edward's life spiraled downward. He moved into a modest, somewhat neglected apartment, his first experience living truly on his own. The transition was anything but smooth. His new home quickly descended into chaos, mirroring his disorganized personal life. With no one to rely on and a habit of tardiness, he soon found himself unemployed, unable to adhere to a schedule. Meanwhile, the dynamics within his family deteriorated further. Michelle, who had always meddled in Edward's affairs, crossed boundaries one too many times, resulting in a serious fallout with Arthur. This ultimately led to their separation. Michelle moved in with Edward, and together they struggled to find stability, scraping by with low-end jobs. Their lives became a series of unfortunate events and poor decisions with no clear path to improvement. In stark contrast, my life took a different turn. Free from the daily stresses and emotional drain of my relationship with Edward, I found myself alone in our condo, which now felt surprisingly spacious and full of potential. With renewed energy and focus, I dedicated myself to my career. The absence of Edward's negative influence allowed me to excel at work, and my professional life flourished as a result. Feeling liberated and optimistic, I embraced my newfound independence. My living space transformed into a true sanctuary where I could relax and plan for the future. The improvement in my work life was palpable. Each day brought a sense of excitement and anticipation for what lay ahead. The contrast between my thriving existence and Edward and Michelle's downward trajectory was stark. While they were no longer a part of my life, the lessons learned from our time together resonated deeply, reinforcing my commitment to personal growth and happiness. Hello, my name is Kelly. Ever since I was a child, I dreamed of becoming a journalist or working in magazine publishing. My passion for writing and staying on top of trends naturally led me to pursue a degree in journalism and media. During college, I immersed myself in the world of storytelling, and upon graduation, I started working for several companies. While none were particularly well known, I took pride in knowing I was living out my dream. Around the time I turned 30, I met Matthew, my future husband. Matthew came from a wealthy family that ran a successful business. And while this seemed like a minor detail at first, it turned out to be a significant factor in my life. His mother, Grace, never approved of me. She made it clear from the beginning that she didn't consider me a suitable match for her son, often criticizing my career in journalism and belittling my academic background. Grace's negative attitude was hurtful at first. It's difficult to feel constantly undermined, especially by someone who should welcome you into the family. For reasons only she could understand, Grace thought it was acceptable to treat me poorly. Thankfully, Matthew always stood by me, defending me against her harsh words. His father, Larry, was also on my side, standing up for me whenever Grace crossed the line. Over time, I grew more resilient to her jabs. Matthew even suggested we distance ourselves from her, but I disagreed. Matthew worked closely with his father in the family business, and distancing ourselves from Grace could have made things uncomfortable for Larry, who was nothing but kind. I didn't want to be the cause of tension in their family, nor did I want Matthew to sever ties with his mother. I learned to be patient, recognizing that maintaining family relationships often involves navigating complex emotions and difficult circumstances. We limited our interactions with Grace to a few times a month, but that dynamic shifted when Larry had to travel overseas for business. Grace, not wanting to be alone, moved in with us until his return. I was hesitant about the arrangement but believed that family should come first. Living with Grace, however, was far more challenging than I anticipated. She found fault in almost everything I did, and her criticisms seemed relentless. Still, I managed to maintain my composure, reminding myself that as long as her words caused no actual harm, I could endure her presence. But my patience was truly tested during a particularly stressful week at work. I was leading a major redesign for a section of our magazine, an important project that could lead to a promotion. The pressure was immense, and Grace, oblivious to the weight of my responsibilities, seemed indifferent to the stress I was under. The night before my big presentation, I was discussing my anxieties with Matthew when Grace overheard us. She waltzed into the living room and decided to offer her unsolicited opinion. "Well, Kelly," she began, "I overheard your conversation, and honestly, you probably don't have the skills for this. You'll likely do poorly tomorrow." Her words were cold, and she followed up with, "Maybe it's time to quit and focus on being a housewife." Her comment stung deeply, not just because of the lack of support but because it revealed her complete disregard for my professional aspirations. I tried to brush it off, but then she added, "I can't believe he married a journalist." Her tone was dripping with scorn, as if my career and everything I worked for were worthless in her eyes. Frustrated, I finally stood up for myself. "Grace, you're overstepping. I don't have time for this right now. I have more important things to focus on than your opinion of me." She looked stunned by my boldness. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she shot back, turning to Matthew. "Say something. Your wife is disrespecting your mother." But Matthew stayed calm, siding with me. "Mom, she's just defending herself. There's nothing wrong with that." Grace, clearly offended, accused me of turning Matthew against his family. "Look how easily you've turned him against us," she spat. "You'll regret this, Kelly." Her intrusion into our private conversation and her blatant disrespect left me simmering with anger, but I chose not to let it consume me. Matthew tried to apologize on her behalf, but I stopped him. It wasn't his burden to bear. After that heated exchange, we decided to call it a night. My mind was too occupied with my presentation to dwell on Grace's threats, but the tension lingered. The next morning, I focused on what truly mattered: my career and the opportunity ahead. I arrived at work early, eager and prepared for my presentation. But when I opened my laptop, I was met with a heart-stopping discovery. All the files on my desktop were gone. It was as if my laptop had been completely reset. Panic surged through me as I frantically checked my email, hoping the backups I'd sent would save me. But to my horror, even my inbox and trash had been wiped clean. Overwhelmed and fighting back tears, I approached my boss to explain the situation. His reaction was anything but understanding. He reprimanded me harshly, his voice sharp with frustration, and then coldly told me to forget the presentation altogether. The weight of his words hit me hard. As if that wasn't enough, I soon found out that my boss had a backup presenter lined up, just in case I failed. In that moment, it became painfully clear that my chances for advancement at the company were slim. Devastated by the turn of events, I left the office in tears, my heart heavy with disappointment. When I got home, Matthew was still there. The moment he saw me, his expression changed, and without hesitation, he decided to take the day off to be with me. He pulled me into his arms as I cried, the stress and heartbreak of the morning overwhelming me. Once I had calmed down a little, he gently asked, "What happened, honey? Didn't the presentation go well?" "There was no presentation," I replied, my voice shaky. "At least not by me." Matthew looked at me, confused. "What do you mean? You've been working so hard on this for days. You barely slept." I took a deep breath, still struggling with the shock of it all. When I got to work and opened my laptop, everything was gone. All the files were deleted. His brows furrowed in disbelief. "How is that even possible?" "It's embarrassing," I admitted, the memory still fresh and stinging. I had to explain the whole thing to my boss. I'd backed everything up by emailing it to myself, but even my inbox and trash had been completely emptied. Matthew's face softened with sympathy. "I'm so sorry this happened. What did your boss say?" I sighed, the words still heavy on my chest. "He was furious. He called me unprofessional and lazy. And the worst part, he had someone else ready to give the presentation. The bitterness in my voice was hard to hide. But you still have your job, right? Matthew tried to find a silver lining. Yes, but I'm stuck. There's no room for me to advance or move up. I'm done here, I said, defeated. Don't worry, honey. You'll find a better job. I'll be here for you through it all. Just keep working there until you're ready to leave, he reassured me, his support unwavering. Yeah, I'll give my notice soon. I can't believe I worked so hard for this, and just when I was so close, it all slipped away, I said, the realization sinking in. The whole incident had left me shaken. I'd always taken pride in my work, and to have a project unravel so disastrously felt traumatic. Though I stayed on for another week, my heart wasn't in it anymore. When I finally submitted my resignation, I was counting down the days until I could walk away. Throughout this ordeal, Grace's reaction was strangely gleeful. She caught me in tears one day and instead of offering comfort, made snide remarks, gloating over my misfortune. At first, her words fueled my anger, but then I realized that her satisfaction in my struggles was just a reflection of her own bitterness. As I reflected on Grace's behavior, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. What if her delight wasn't just about me leaving my job? What if she had actually been involved in the disaster? The suspicion gnawed at me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Grace might have sabotaged my laptop. The idea that she could have played a role in the ruin of my career haunted me. Before bringing such a serious accusation to Matthew, I knew I needed concrete proof. Determined to uncover the truth, I devised a plan to monitor her discreetly. I purchased a hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector and installed it in my home office. I sensed the device with my phone, setting everything up to capture any suspicious activity. The next part of my plan was to bait Grace into revealing her possible involvement. I made it a point to appear visibly stressed and anxious whenever I was in the office, hoping it would draw her attention. Matthew was still at work, completely unaware of the unfolding drama. As expected, Grace took notice of my anxious pacing. What's wrong? Are you stressed about another project? She prodded, her tone dripping with false concern. Taking a deep breath, I decided to play into her curiosity. Yeah. It's just been really tough lately, I confided, setting the trap. I've been given another chance to present my work. It could lead to a raise, I shared, trying to mask my anxiety with a glimmer of hope. Grace's interest was immediately piqued, her tone dripping with both surprise and skepticism. Oh, really? Yes, I continued, but I'm nervous. This is my last chance to get it right, and I have to do well. I watched her reaction carefully, hoping to catch a hint of her true intentions. Why aren't you telling Matthew? Are you embarrassed about your job? She asked, her words sharp. It's not that, I sighed. I just don't want to disappoint him again. Please let's keep this between us, okay? I pleaded, trying to gauge her response. Grace shrugged, her reply chilling. I'm not promising anything, but it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Frustrated, I couldn't hold back. Why do you always want me to fail? I confronted her. Grace scoffed. I just think you'd be better off as a housewife. It's less embarrassing than what you're doing now. Her words stung, and I felt my patience thin. I don't have time for this, and I don't care what you think. Please just leave me alone so I can practice before Matthew gets home. With that, Grace finally left, but her unsettling smirk lingered in my mind long after she was gone. I stayed in the office a little while longer, processing everything before leaving to join Matthew when he got home. Throughout dinner, I couldn't shake the unease that her occasional smirks brought. Each one sent a ripple of anxiety through me, heightening my suspicion. Later that night, after Matthew and I had settled into our usual routine of watching a few episodes of our favorite show, I decided it was time to check the footage from the hidden camera in my office. As we watched, the screen showed nothing unusual until around midnight. That's when Grace stealthily entered the office. My heart raced as I hastily showed Matthew the live feed on my phone. At first, he was puzzled, but soon disbelief crossed his face as Grace tampered with my laptop, causing it to shut off and restart. Matthew's expression shifted from shock to anger as he realized what was happening. Meanwhile, the camera showed Grace rifling through my files. Unable to contain his frustration, Matthew stormed into the office, his footsteps heavy with fury. He burst through the door, startling Grace, who spun around, caught in the act. "What are you doing in here, Ma?" Matthew demanded, his voice strained as he tried to maintain his composure. "Oh, nothing really," Grace replied, feigning nonchalance. "Then why is Kelly's laptop open?" Are you accusing me of going through her stuff? Matthew pressed, his voice rising with suspicion. I think you did more than just go through her laptop, Mom. Did you come here to tidy up at midnight? You know Kelly would never leave her laptop open like that, Matthew retorted, his frustration clear. Don't talk to me like that. I'm still your mother, Grace snapped defensively. Yeah, my mother who seems to enjoy hurting and sabotaging my wife, Matthew shot back, his voice unwavering. We caught you on camera resetting Kelly's laptop. You were spying on me? That's disgusting. How could you film me without my consent? Grace exclaimed, her indignation rising. I didn't put cameras in your room, I interjected, stepping beside Matthew. I installed one in my office. You went in there without permission. The confrontation had brought to light the extent of Grace's interference, and it was a defining moment for all of us, a test of both loyalty and trust. Despite her wrongdoing, Matthew stood firm in his decision. Even if we did film you, it's nothing compared to what you've done to Kelly. I want you out of our house, tomorrow, he declared resolutely. Grace's voice wavered with desperation. But I'll be all alone. I don't care, Mom. I don't want to talk to you right now, Matthew replied, his mind made up. The next morning, Grace attempted to stall her departure by making breakfast and washing dishes, hoping to buy more time. But Matthew wasn't swayed. As soon as she finished, he came downstairs with her bags already packed. Your Uber's on its way, he informed her. Grace pleaded tearfully, a rare display of vulnerability from someone who typically brought others to tears. But Matthew, unmoved, retreated to our room, leaving me to face her alone. You set me up, Grace lashed out, her voice trembling with accusation. I met her gaze calmly, though my words were firm. If anyone should be yelling, it's me. You're lucky I haven't shared the footage with your friends and family. If they knew what you did, you'd lose them all. My words silenced her. After Grace's departure, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, though my job situation still weighed heavily on my mind. However, with Matthew's support, I knew I'd find my way forward. Once my notice period ended, I took some time off to rest and recalibrate. In the months that followed, I enrolled in specialized courses related to my field, honing in on a niche that could give me the edge I needed. My decision not to expose Grace was driven by a desire to rise above her pettiness and prove my capabilities on my own terms. With Matthew's family connections, I secured several promising recommendations, and with his unwavering support, I found the breakthrough I'd been hoping for. I was offered the role of chief editor at a globally recognized magazine. The work was demanding but incredibly fulfilling. As I threw myself into my new role, the need to prove myself to Grace faded into the background. In fact, during those transformative months, we had no contact with her at all. My journey to becoming chief editor wasn't just a professional victory, it was a personal liberation. I no longer needed to validate my worth to someone who had doubted me. Matthew, meanwhile, continued to maintain a professional relationship with his father, Larry, though we heard little about Grace. Larry hinted that she still harbored some resentment, but he kept the details to himself. Despite knowing that Grace hadn't completely let go of her bitterness, I was content. I had risen above her schemes, and I felt stronger for it. Yet deep down, I knew a confrontation with her was inevitable, especially given the unresolved tension that lingered in the background. When I found out that both Grace and Larry were attending a significant company event I'd be at, I braced myself. The party was a grand affair with prominent figures from various industries in attendance. Matthew and I made sure to look our best, fully aware of our own growing influence. As we arrived, we spotted Larry and Grace waving us over. We approached them, exchanging pleasantries, though Grace's eyes raked over me with a critical smirk. Look at you, trying to fit in, she sneered. Ignoring her, Larry chimed in warmly, Kelly, you look lovely as always. Thanks, Larry. How have you been? I asked, steering the conversation away from Grace's pettiness. Yeah, how's unemployment treating you? Grace cut in sharply. Wait, you're unemployed? Larry asked, genuinely surprised. Oh, yes, she messed up at her job, and they let her go. I've always said she's not good enough for our son. Look at her, she can't even keep a job. Grace mocked, her grin malicious. That's enough, Mom, Matthew intervened, his tone firm. Stop siding with her. It's bad enough having to see her everywhere. We wouldn't have to if you just left her, like I said, Grace insisted stubbornly. All right, that's enough. Either you stop talking or I'm leaving, Matthew warned, his patience wearing thin. Larry, trying to ease the tension, smiled at me. Kelly, sweetie, if you need a job, let me know. It would be great to work with you. That's kind of you, Larry, but I'll have to pass. I replied graciously, though I appreciated his offer. Grace muttered under her breath, "Of course not. I told you she's lazy and incompetent." Just then, my name echoed through the room, followed by a wave of cheers. I turned to see the CEO motioning for me to come up to the small stage. Excusing myself, I left Grace and Larry behind, with Larry amused and Grace for once speechless. As I stepped onto the stage, the CEO began praising my contributions to the company, particularly my innovative ideas for the magazine. The room filled with applause, and I was soon invited to give a speech. Standing there, I thanked Matthew for his unwavering support and acknowledged the efforts of my colleagues, whose collaboration had been invaluable. I also subtly alluded to an unnamed critic whose skepticism had fueled my determination to excel. When I stepped off the stage, I was met with congratulations from various guests, many of whom were curious about the mysterious critic. I smiled, but kept that detail to myself. Returning to our table, Matthew greeted me with a proud embrace, and Larry offered his congratulations with a warm hug. Grace, however, could only manage a cold, disdainful glare. "Oh, Kelly, this is incredible. Now I see why you wouldn't want to work with us," Larry remarked, genuine admiration in his voice. "Thanks, Larry. Honestly, if you'd offered me a job 8 months ago, I might have taken it," I admitted, reflecting on how far I had come. "You should have. At least then you'd be paid more," Grace interjected sharply, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Paid more? I couldn't put a price on this," Larry countered, defending the intangible rewards of my current position. "Right, like she's worth that kind of money," Grace scoffed dismissively. "No, Grace, I mean I couldn't match what she's making right now," Larry clarified, hinting at my substantial earnings. Grace's face twisted in confusion. "What do you mean?" Larry turned to me, asking for permission. "Do you want me to tell her, Kelly? It might sound like boasting if I do." With a nod, I allowed him to reveal the truth. "Kelly makes at least 6 times more than I do in her current role," Larry said, his words leaving Grace visibly stunned. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "She must be making way more than Matthew or I could have imagined," Grace muttered, her tone shifting from disbelief to reluctant acknowledgement. "That can't be right. You must be mistaken," she insisted, still struggling to grasp the reality. "He's not mistaken, Mom," Matthew interjected calmly. "And I meant it when I thanked you. Your constant criticism only pushed me to support Kelly even more. Seeing her success probably stings, doesn't it?" Grace's eyes narrowed, her anger barely concealed. I smiled politely. "Anyway, Matthew and I have other people to speak with. Grace, Larry, feel free to join us later," I said, making it clear we were moving on. Larry chuckled, raising his glass in a small toast to me as Matthew and I walked away. I felt more alive than ever, validated, triumphant, and grateful for Matthew's unwavering support through it all. Hi, I'm Shirley, a 31-year-old office worker. A year ago, I married Mason, a man I met on a blind date. After a year and a half of dating, he proposed. Settling down had always been my dream, so even though the proposal felt a bit hasty, I said yes. In hindsight, I realized I should have taken a more cautious approach. Not long after our wedding, Mason made a surprising decision to switch jobs. When I asked him about it, he explained that his previous position didn't allow him to fully showcase his skills. What stunned me even more was his announcement that he had already resigned and would be leaving by the end of the month. Thankfully, he found another job quickly, but it came with a lower salary than his last position. At first, I wasn't too worried since I had my own job, but then Mason started pushing me to quit. I might have considered it if his new salary had been enough to support us both, but with his recent job change, his pay was lower. He kept insisting it would go up soon, yet there was no indication of when that might happen. Quitting my job under such uncertain financial circumstances felt risky. We relied on my income to save and cover essential expenses like rent and car payments. Depending solely on Mason's current salary just wasn't practical. One evening, Mason handed me divorce papers, seemingly to intimidate me. "You know I'm ready for this whenever," he challenged. I urged him to take a breath and rethink his words, but he simply stood up and retreated to his room. That confrontation left me reflecting on the hasty decisions and unexpected changes that had occurred since I met Mason. I firmly told him I wouldn't quit my job until his salary improved. At first, he seemed to accept my stance, but the topic kept coming up. Each time he mentioned it, I stood my ground with the same unwavering response. Now, a year into our marriage, Mason's salary still hadn't changed, yet he kept pressuring me to quit my job. "When are you going to leave?" he would ask, and I often felt the urge to respond sarcastically. However, I knew our financial stability hinged on my income. If it was so crucial for me to resign, I believed Mason should focus on advancing his own career instead. As time passed, I began to understand why Mason was so adamant about my leaving work. This became evident during our visits to his parents' house. Whenever we were with his mother, Martha, Mason would feign concern, claiming he wanted to ease her burden. She would express her gratitude, and then he would glance at me pointedly, as if nudging me toward resignation. He suggested she needed help, but Martha was anything but helpless. She was active, healthy, and even held a part-time job that funded her hobbies and social life. It was clear she didn't require my assistance, yet Mason continued to push for my departure. "If only one of us could be home during the day, we could check on Mom every day," Mason said one day, seemingly out of nowhere. It was clear he envisioned me visiting Martha daily, which felt overwhelming and unnecessary. I asked him directly what he expected me to do since Martha was perfectly capable on her own. He listed off mundane tasks like helping with housework and running errands. It was obvious he had plans for how I could contribute, but none of them justified leaving my career. This endless cycle of requests and justifications was exhausting. I needed Mason to realize that while I was willing to support his family when needed, giving up my job without a solid reason was not something I could take lightly. "But Martha has her part-time job and spends most of her days out with friends, right?" I pointed out when he suggested I could take care of housework during the day. His response left me puzzled. Was he really implying I should become his mother's maid? Mason was deeply concerned about maintaining a certain image, especially in front of his parents. If he was so eager to take care of them, why couldn't he handle the household chores himself? Despite his persistent pressure, I stood firm in my decision not to quit my job. I also opted not to visit my in-laws on my days off, though I did make an effort to see them during major holidays like New Year's. As I reflected on our visits, a pattern emerged. Mason frequently delegated tasks to me, asking me to tidy up, assist his mom, or run errands. I pushed back against these requests. When he suggested I go to the store, I would reply, "Don't you know this area better than I do?" His standard excuse was that it wouldn't look right if he did it himself. A rationale I found both puzzling and manipulative. It seemed he was more focused on controlling the situation and projecting an image of family care than on genuinely caring for his parents or me. As time passed, my perception of Mason changed. It became clear that he was more focused on appearances than on genuine affection or respect for me. When I finally confronted him, asking why he didn't help out or even consider quitting his job to care for his mother, his reaction spoke volumes. He looked both disgusted and uncomfortable, replying, "That's not something I'm supposed to do. I'm giving you these instructions so my mom thinks you're a considerate, useful wife. You should appreciate how kind I'm being." His words were revealing. He essentially wanted to shift all the demanding tasks onto me while showcasing his virtue as if it were something extraordinary. But I am neither his servant nor his subordinate, and I certainly didn't deserve to be disrespected in front of my in-laws. It became increasingly clear that Mason's priorities were misaligned, valuing appearances over genuine partnership and support. If he continued with these unreasonable demands, I refused to stay silent. I will stand my ground. Despite our numerous discussions, Mason hasn't changed. He keeps pestering me with the same question. "Are you going to quit your job?" Furthermore, every time we visit my in-laws, he continues to boss me around as he always has. After reaching my breaking point, I realized it was time for a serious conversation. "We need to talk about our future," I said, hoping to guide our discussion towards something constructive. "What are you even trying to say?" Mason shot back, clearly annoyed. "I'm honestly fed up. I'm tired of you constantly asking when I'll quit my job, and I'm exhausted from the pressure to take care of Martha," I expressed, laying out my grievances. "Why are you so upset about that? You're my wife, and it's your duty to care for my parents," Mason retorted. "Don't you think it's unfair to place that responsibility solely on me? Shouldn't you, as their biological child, the one helping with the housework and caring for them?" I challenged, confronting his outdated views. "No way. It's the wife's duty to do it." Are you the kind of person who doesn't care about family? Mason accused, clearly upset by my resistance. I'm disappointed to hear you say that, he added. Seizing the moment to highlight the double standard, I asked, then let me ask you this. How have you been caring for my parents? If I asked you to take care of them, would you do it? Mason stared at me blankly, struggling to understand the connection. What are you saying? Why should a husband be responsible for his wife's parents? So does that mean you won't ever take care of my parents? I pressed, aiming to highlight his inconsistency. The husband's parents and the wife's parents are totally different, Mason replied, missing the point entirely. What difference does that make? I don't understand, I said, feeling increasingly frustrated. I didn't realize you were so out of touch. It's like talking to my old boss. What are you trying to say? Mason asked, clearly confused. I'm saying that a husband should take care of his own parents, and you should support your wife's family too, I replied, trying to emphasize the importance of mutual support and equality in our responsibilities. I felt the need to clarify, so I added, so you only prioritize your own blood relatives. I'm really disappointed in you. I won't be visiting your parents anymore. Why would you do that? Enough is enough. I'm the one who wants you to stop this nonsense, he shot back. No way. How did you talk to me like that? My mom is right, Mason exclaimed, his temper flaring. Ha, your mom was talking about you. She said you're a badly behaved husband. That's why she gave me this, he said, pulling a piece of paper from his bag. It was divorce papers. What? You had divorce papers ready? I asked, shocked, but Mason looked oddly proud of himself. See? I scared you, didn't I? I'm ready for this anytime, so think about what you just said, Mason declared smugly before heading to his room. Unbelievable. Why is Mason so selfish? I thought, fuming. That triumphant look on his face made it clear that the divorce papers were just a threat to manipulate me. The fact that Martha was involved only fueled my suspicion. Mason was acting like a puppet for his mom, trying to control me while following her orders. It was ridiculous. I wouldn't let him have his way. How could he not see that our marriage was in serious trouble with this behavior? His lack of understanding only frustrated me further. Mason had already completed the divorce papers and handed them to me with witnesses present, including Martha and his friends. This meant I could sign and file them whenever I wanted. The next day after Mason left for work, I filled out the divorce papers and submitted them to the city office as a precaution. I also filed a notice of non-acceptance of the marriage certificate. Knowing Mason might threaten to file a marriage certificate on his own, I called my parents to explain the situation. When they learned I had prepared the divorce papers, they were initially shocked but quickly rallied behind my decision. Outraged by Mason's behavior, they offered to help me move my belongings right away. Taking a leave from work, I had my parents come over, and together we relocated all my things to their house while Mason was out. I decided to stay with my parents for a while. For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely comfortable and at ease in their home. Reflecting on my marriage, it became clear that Mason never contributed his fair share to our household chores. I was the one cooking dinner after long workdays and managing all the cleaning and laundry on my days off. On top of that, he expected me to care for his parents, which simply wasn't feasible. That evening, Mason called, likely just back from work. Hey, where are you right now? He asked. I'm at my parents' house, I replied. Oh, why would you go back there without my permission? And where's all your stuff? Don't tell me you're staying the night, he questioned, his tone a mix of surprise and selfishness. I almost laughed at how oblivious he was to the seriousness of the situation, thinking I was just staying overnight when I had actually taken most of my belongings with me. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. What are you talking about? Come back here and make me some food, he demanded. Make it yourself, I replied, ending the call. I couldn't engage in a conversation about divorce while he continued to be so dismissive. To find some peace, I decided to block his number and wait for him to come to my parents' house. A week later, Mason arrived at my parents' home, accompanied by his parents. They all wore serious expressions as we faced off in the living room, 3 against 3. How could you do this? How could you leave without my permission? Mason demanded, incredulity and accusation lacing his voice. You treated me like a housekeeper, Mason. All I ever asked was for you to take responsibility for your family, I replied, stating my ground. That's not true. What kind of wife would I be if I didn't take care of Mason? Martha shot me a fierce glare. My father began to tremble with anger, but I quickly intervened. Mason insisted that I quit my job to care for Martha, claiming it was my duty as his wife. Yet when it comes to my own family, he expects me to manage everything alone. Ultimately, Mason seeks obedience, using me to take care of his parents while taking all the credit. That's why he prioritizes his parents over mine. Have you ever heard Mason say these things? I asked. Martha continued to glare, but Liam looked confused, as if he hadn't known about any of this before. Let me clear the air, Mason interjected, waving the divorce papers and claiming it was all Martha's idea. Why would you say that? Liam asked, clearly taken aback. Oh no, it's because Camila has an attitude problem, Martha stammered. And did you really say that Camila's parents aren't a priority? I pressed. Well, it's only natural for your parents to come first, Martha shot back defensively. Don't be absurd. I came here to support you after hearing about the unfair treatment Camila has faced, but it seems you're the one at fault. Don't hide behind her parents' authority to manipulate the situation, Liam said, causing Mason to visibly shrink in his seat. Liam then turned to me and my parents, offering an apology. I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused by my foolish son. I will have a serious talk with him. Liam, you're not to blame at all, so please don't apologize, I replied. Thank you for your understanding, but there's something else I need to address. I turned to Mason, who now looked nervous. The divorce papers you gave me? I've already filed them. We're no longer married. Mason and Martha both turned pale. Why did you file those without my permission? Mason demanded, his shock evident. You told me I could file them whenever I wanted. Besides, you filled out your part and had Martha sign as a witness, I calmly explained, leaving Mason momentarily speechless. Seeing the escalating tension, Liam intervened, furious. Mason, you used divorce as a threat, he exclaimed, and in a moment of rage, slapped Mason across the face. Martha looked visibly shaken by the scene. Liam then turned to me and offered a sincere apology. I sincerely apologize that you had to witness this. You have every right to divorce this fool. On behalf of Mason, I'm truly sorry for the damage done to your marriage, Liam said, tightening his grip on Mason's collar as he demanded apologies from both him and Martha before ushering them out of the house. Later, I expressed my gratitude to Liam for his intervention. He reassured me that all of Mason's assets and property would be transferred to me without any complications, considering my higher income and the effort I had invested in managing our household. It was a relief to know I had secured everything from our marriage. I later learned that Liam had divorced Martha, clearly appalled by her behavior. One day, I bumped into a colleague from Mason's former workplace who had some surprising news. Mason hadn't been performing well at his job and was frequently criticized by his boss. In a fit of defiance, he resigned and switched jobs, which only deepened my frustration with him. Instead of owning up to his shortcomings, he chose to blame others, which likely contributed to his lower pay at the new position. Now, I feel a sense of relief having left him behind. I've rented a cozy apartment and am enjoying my newfound independence. Work is going well, and I'd even received a raise recently. For now, I'm not interested in dating. I prefer to focus on my career. Mason was always more concerned with appearances than with genuine skills. He put on a show at home but never made any real progress in his career. It's unfortunate how some spouses resort to using divorce threats as a way to feel powerful. It's a major misstep. I hope they eventually recognize their mistakes and find happiness on their own. As for me, I'm grateful to have moved on from Mason and look forward to the possibility of meeting someone special when I'm ready.